Is at the podium. So before we get into what's to discuss today, there is much to discuss. Buck will join us at noon. I'm going to shut up and go live to the Titans head coach.
Beginning of the offseason program, he's definitely doing probably more than I thought, which is good. He's ahead of schedule in that regard. He's been involved in a little bit more sort of every week. He's done a little more, routes versus air, individual stuff. So that's all part of the normal rehab process, the running. And then when you're coming back off those ACLs, it's the cutting that's part of it. So you're working all that individual drills, the route drills. So you're trying to work back to strength. And a lot of it is a strengthening issue just around the whole knee, quad, all that stuff. So all that stuff has been good. He's progressing really well. Hopeful that he'll be cleared to roll once camp starts.
He's not doing that stuff full speed and individual stuff, though, is he?
Usually not. I mean, he's probably at 80-ish%. I wouldn't say he's at full go. But again, that's how they keep progressing the return to play process when you're coming off of those injuries.
Coach, day 2 of minicamp, what's kind of the game plan for practice today, and anything specific you're looking for today?
Today will be a little bit more, yesterday was kind of more base down, first, second down stuff, and today we'll jump back into the third down realm. So there'll be some more stuff in the third down scenarios and as far as pressure and protections and stuff like that. So good work to have on third down. Then we'll finish the practice today with a 2-minute drill. So we'll just go through that operation. Haven't done a lot of that at this point. It's hard in the OTAs, but we'll try to get more of the operational parts down and on both sides of the ball. And then, you hope a couple situational calls come up for both sides, and then we'll be ready to kick a field goal or two if we get in those spots. So that's pretty much the main focus.
How do you like what you saw from Jeffrey Simmons in his first day back yesterday?
I would say Jeff looked like Jeff. There wasn't much of a drop off of any sort for him. Obviously, it looks like he's in fantastic shape, which we were pretty aware that he would be. It was good. It was good to have his energy back at practice. The good thing is that as much as Jeff likes to talk during practice, I think we found out that we have another guy that likes to talk probably just as much. So it was good banter. It was good competition. It was good for the energy of practice. It's always good to have Jeff out there.
He said he lost. He said he's down about 20 pounds.
I'll come back, Paul.
He said he's down about 20 pounds at 301. Was that another one of the conversations you had, or was that just self?
No, I think that was Jeff looking at himself and at his body at his age, and a lot of these guys, you start to feel as you get older and you're carrying weight. Sometimes dropping a handful of pounds helps your longevity. It helps your body feel good. So he's in fantastic shape. Obviously, when you look at him, you can see it. So he just made a decision. He wanted to be a little bit lighter, and that's totally fine.
He talks a lot about being double teamed.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't every good defensive tackle in the league constantly double teamed, and aren't most of them overcoming that on a regular basis?
I think it's a little more nuanced than that. To sometimes yes, and sometimes no. Most really good interior players are getting a slide to them most of the time, so they have to deal with that. But I think one of the things that we can do a better job of collectively up front is our rush, working together better. Those things are areas of improvement for us, to where when you are getting double teamed, someone else is taking advantage of that opportunity and finding ways to get one-on-ones. You can structure your front different ways to keep slides off of guys, and you can structure your rush package to game off those slides. So I think we can do collectively a better job of putting guys in position up front to have more opportunities, and Jeff should benefit from that. Again, I think that's part of what I talked about earlier, just that outside linebacker group and defensive line group working together more often, meeting together more often, so we can do a better job balancing our rushes. We can do a better job gaming our rushes and getting guys in position to get one-on-one. So that's on us coaching wise too, to do a better job of that. So yeah, Jeff's going to get double teamed. He's not going to win all of them. Then there's going to be times where we got to help him find opportunities to get one-on-ones.
Femi dealing with anything? He went in early yesterday. And
Who's that?
Femi. And how's he doing in terms of making that transition to being an outside guy from being mostly an inside guy in college?
Yeah, the transition's been pretty smooth for him. He's not had too many issues with it. He's been a natural. One of the things about Femi that's great is he's got really high level football intelligence, and so things make sense to him. as a former off the ball Mike linebacker, he's got a really good vision for what everybody's doing. And so that transition's been easy for him because of his intelligence. There's technique things he's still working to clean up. That'll be a work in progress, especially as pads come on. But he's been good. He's made the transition well. I think you see his energy and intensity and all those things are always going to be what you're looking for from outside linebackers, and been pleased with it. Again, not a finished product by any stretch, but certainly has put a good offseason worth of work in.
Did he go in early yesterday? Is he dealing with anything?
Yeah, I don't think it's anything of any consequence. He should be back out here today, maybe in a limited fashion, but he should be out here.
Ryan, what do you make of the way that Cam shook off the early interception and the way he finished practice off yesterday?
Yeah, great to see. You're going to quarterbacks throw interceptions. I don't know how many quarterbacks. I'd have to look at it to know for sure, but most guys throw somewhere between 8 and 12 on a really good year. So interceptions happen. How you respond to them and how you bounce back in a game is always really important. It certainly didn't shy him away from throws, which is what you want to see. That they just they kind of get ready and throw it again, and that's a good thing to see for a young player in his position in practice. So pleased to see that kind of response. Pleased to see his performance afterwards.
How did Mike McCoy maybe hiring transpire this offseason, and maybe what kind of a role and expertise does he provide to your staff?
Yeah, Mike hired me in the league in 2010 when I was with Josh McDaniels in Denver. Mike was the offense coordinator, so I spent the good part of my early career with Mike, and he's sort of been a mentor to me for a lot of years. I've always reached out and talked to him, and he's got a lot of experience. Been a head coach in this league. He's been a coordinator in this league. He's been around for a long time, and I trust him, and I think that's an important part of it. So, when it didn't work out in Jacksonville for him, there was some other things that he was kind of waiting and seeing on, and I just told him that if none of the things that he wanted to materialize, that there would be a place for him here, and I think that he could really help us. And so far, he's been fantastic, both for me as a head coach and just for perspective and offensive football, and just things he's done and been through have been great. So that's really how it materialized. He was searching for some opportunities, and they didn't happen the way that he was maybe hoping for. But I just told him I'd love to have him be a part of our staff if the opportunity arose, and it worked out.
Brian, we've talked a lot about lessons from last season, how it's affected the offseason approach for the players. How has it affected you as a coach, the lessons you take from last year? How has it affected the staff? Or do you find you're going about this job differently or no?
Yeah, there's definitely some things I go about it differently. I still think I'm pretty true to who I am as far as my interactions with people and players and the staff. But there's a different urgency that goes on here for me, for how I deal with the staff in particular. I think a lot of the things I've learned, I've tried to put into practice. It's one thing to reflect and say, oh, I could have done this and this better. I've been pretty intentional about doing the things that I think we needed to change. I've sort of attacked those things, and they've been a part of my daily interactions and process. And a lot of it was kind of through this offseason program that we developed, and how do we best win football games, and how do I best put our team in position to do that? How do I coach that better, and how do I do a better job from a leadership perspective for our players and our staff? So there's a lot of things that go into that, but I think I've not strayed too far from who I am and how I interact, but I've also been really focused and intentional about what needed to be better.
You alluded to Jeff's just banter with Cam yesterday, and that maybe bringing some energy. I guess, what did you see in Cam's ability to maybe refocus, get back in the huddle, deliver what needed to be called, and what does that maybe say about who he is and how he can handle it?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not used to calling plays to a quarterback who's usually still talking when I'm talking to him. And that's great. And so I asked him after practice, and I said, just help me out here. I said, do you need me to wait till you finish? And he goes, no. He goes, I'm listening. So he's hearing what I'm telling him, and it was pretty remarkable to see all the things going on and how much he's talking, but his brain is still with me, I guess is the best way to put it. When I'm calling a play, he's doing all he's doing, but he's listening to everything I'm telling him, and he enters right into the huddle and he calls a play and doesn't script the play call. And I thought that was actually kind of remarkable. I couldn't do that. So that's just kind of who he is. That's his personality. And again, if it was something that I felt like was detrimental to his ability to manage the offense and call it in a huddle and all that, I'd probably have a couple things to say to him. But he didn't miss a beat when it came to calling the play and being on top of it, and then executing when it came time to execute. So it was a new experience for me, but it was fun.
Andre's done a pretty good job in his first year acquitting himself as a 3-down player and having impact in the pass rush, but he's in a different mold than somebody like Jeff is.
Mm-hmm.
So what is a reasonable next step expectation for somebody like him who's trying to take a leap this year?
Yeah, he's always going to be, his body and skill set is that of primarily a first and second down run defender. That's what he does really, really well. But he's also got this unique ability to move for a man his size, and he's got a lot of power. And one of the things that we have to do up front from the interior of the pocket is we got to be able to crush the interior of the pocket, and you got to be able to push it. Because if the quarterback is nowhere to step up, that's a really uncomfortable feeling for quarterbacks. If there's no lane to move in, when the interior is coming at you, that's challenging, and we're trying to get more from him in that regard, where he can really transition and use his power and size to collapse the pocket in the quarterback's lap to create more pressures. And it goes back to your question too, Paul. Is if Jeff's getting double teamed and Tavondre's getting the one-on-one, those are the ones that he's got to win, or the rush has got to get balanced out by him crushing it and Jeff playing off it potentially for sacks. So rush working together is a big part of it, but I think I'd like to see just more production in the pressure game for Sweat, because he can play the run as good as any interior player. Now it's just how do we add a layer to your game in the rush and knowing what you do well. I'm not asking him to be somebody that he's not, but how do we best use his skills and strengths to affect the quarterback?
Good.
Thank you, Brian.
That is Titans coach Brian Callahan meeting with the media, day 2 of mandatory minicamp. Coordinators are set to step up to the podium, and we'll carry that live for you next on 104.5 The Zone.
Obviously, great line play is probably the key to every good offense in the NFL. So, Dan and really can give us a chance to kind of do some more just straight 6-man protections and not helping out both sides of the tackles and things like that. So he kind of opens up just a lot of the playbook and a lot of more spacing on the field for the passing game. And, he's a good run game player too. So you feel good about all the spots across the board. And I think that's a comfortable feeling for Brian as a play caller and for the rest of the offensive staff to go, okay, we don't have to go and have a hole or just have to help somebody over on one side.
When you guys envision what your offense is going to look like, where does Chim fit in? What's his role going to be?
I think we're trying to find kind of everybody's role. I think Chim has showed that he can play inside and outside here. So far, it's easy in shorts at this point. So he's shown he can kind of play everywhere, all over the field. So as much as he can keep taking and growing in the offense, I think we want to use him a lot. So I don't think there's any limits on what he could do, but I don't think we're ready to kind of say he's going to be at this spot yet either.
As you try to develop DK and Ayman, those young guys, how much does having Ridley, because the way he practices, every rep is like Rents do, you know what I mean? So having that urgency, how much does having a guy like that help those young guys to see the big picture?
I think they've invigorate each other. I think Calvin kind of takes a lot of energy from having all these young guys that are eager and kind of ready to work like he does, and they kind of see how this guy who's done it for a long time and really kind of established himself in the league, how he works every day. So I think that kind of relationship between the young guys and the old guys, it's been really fun and kind of really brought the whole energy of the whole group and really the whole offense to a better level.
So with those younger guys here, is it safe to say you've experienced a an upkick in urgency from Ridley?
I wouldn't say from Cal. I think Calvin's always had a great urgency. I think he's probably enjoying the role of kind of being the older guy that gets to kind of show them how to do it. I feel like he's kind of gotten a chance now that he's a year in, established here, knows the offense, kind of knows how he wants it all to work. I think he's really taken the leadership role of that room of, more vocal, bringing those guys along with him. Would say that makes sense.
Pads on, obviously, but JC, during the course of offseason, how's he looked as far as just picking up where he left off at right tackle?
Oh, he's looked, I would say he's been our best lineman so far throughout the offseason program. He's been the most consistent. He's got, kind of almost no negatives on every day. He's graded out at like an unbelievable level on just what we've done. His conditioning has been excellent. He looks like he's half the size that he was, not to totally, but we challenged him after the season. Hey, you got to lose weight. You got to get in shape, and talk about a guy that took those conversations and really changed his whole lifestyle of how he was eating and, taking care of his body. And he looks like a whole different player out there. So he's been pretty awesome.
On the note of the line, to see Zeitler out here yesterday was probably great, but how much of an influence has he been even early on here? I know he just kind of arrived here.
Yeah, he's kind of just got that calming veteran presence, and he's helped some of those young guys and sitting there, hey, this is some techniques he used to use, things of that way. So it's still early for him. I think he's kind of feeling his way through everything, but just having a guy with his experience kind of pelts on the wall for us it's fun to talk to him. I think all the guys enjoy kind of just picking his brain on O-line play, and he's, a master at it. So it's pretty impressive.
What have you guys been doing, or what can you guys do to develop that Cam-Lloyd relationship while Lloyd's hurt? Just how important actually is that before the season starts to have your quarterback and center connected?
It's important. It's very important. They're by each other in the locker room and they talk all the time, but really in the meetings, they kind of already have started discussions about protections. What do you see? Do you need me to see this for you? So that relationship has started off the field, or not as much on the grass. And Lloyd's out here and he's as involved as anybody can be with his current health situation. So I think we feel good about where that relationship's at, and I think those two are both mature enough, and Lloyd and all the quarterbacks have really kind of, hey, this is where I see this, and Lloyd's still very much the leader of the O-line. So it stayed that way.
In terms of when you're talking about being in the second year of the system, Calvin talked about how it's so much easier for him now. Levis mentioned that, he's got a better understanding of what you guys are trying to do. How much does that help guys to be in the second year of an offense, and how much easier is it?
All right, Titans coordinators are meeting with the media at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Currently, it's offensive coordinator Nick Holtz, and we go to that live on 104.5 The Zone.
We even game plan certain plays. We all know what we're looking for, the same things. And then in each position room, we can all explain it the same. So I think the communication has just been better, and it helps everybody just kind of, there's no gray area. I think we've taken a lot of stuff out of the offense. We took, there were plays from Cincinnati and plays that I brought and everybody else brought, and we're like, okay, that didn't fit. Or we repped them a bunch last year, and now we've taken them out. And that's helped, I think, streamline everybody, feel comfortable. We know how Brian calls a game now. All those kind of things have helped really the communication and then the information flow down to the players.
You guys have worked in the middle of the field a great deal, it seems like. Is that working camp strength, what the defense is giving you, any philosophy to it?
A good mix of both, right? The defense has kind of given us a bunch of internal pressures, which have helped kind of open up the middle field a little bit there, where those are kind of the voids of the zone. And it's a little bit of a emphasis on what we saw last season. We were so far outside the numbers on a lot of things last year, really trying to work those as some of the scheme concepts.
Obviously been a long offseason for Cam, been for you as well. What's the stretch like from time mini camp ends till training camp as far as communication? Give him time, but also want to have him ready, and we anticipate that being like.
Yeah, I think Cam probably could use I think all the rookies could use a mental break. I think you go through the draft process, a bunch of these guys were in the All-Star games, and then they were, getting drafted, doing the pre-draft prep, doing 30 visits, all those kind of things. It's taxing for those guys. So at some point we want them to get away, get out of here. They've got some stuff next week for their rookie development program, and then they'll be gone for a couple weeks. But they're kind of all going to come back. We've kind of mapped out with them this week what their summer plans are. Hey, tell us where you're going to be. We're going to go on vacation. Hey, here's some materials you can take. Here's some tapes to look at, all these other kind of things. And then we'll still be in communication as we go. But give them a plan, but let them keep working so it doesn't come back and be fresh and it's like they forgot everything. At the same point, they do need a little mental break because they got a long season ahead of them.
Given how many more resources there are from that side, that you're kind of building a roster bottom up in a lot of ways?
From what side?
Bottom up.
Oh, yeah. I don't know about that. I think we're just kind of trying to get the best players we can. I guess I don't totally understand where you're going. Or
There's a lot more undrafted rookies available than there are number one.
Oh, yeah. I think we're just trying to find the right guys. Bring in the guys that can contribute all the different spots. I'm leave my roster building to Mike and those guys.
Maybe along the same lines, you entered the offseason with a ton of questions about your pass catchers beyond Calvin. Now you have a ton of bodies there. How much have you been able to sort roles or positions through this point at the end of training camp, and then what will help you define those roles and positions once you get into training camp?
I think it's good that we really haven't slotted guys into certain positions yet. They're kind of played all over. Even Calvin, we've moved him around more, where last year it felt like Calvin's in one spot and you moved everyone else kind of around him. Now he's played some different things and kind of got to diversify his game. And I think the one thing before we get into slotting guys, we want to give kind of the guys the opportunity to do everything. And then really probably like middle of August, you really start trimming down. Okay, this guy's going to be the slot guy. This guy's just really an outside guy. And you kind of start to define the roles from there. But you want to build his depth as deep as we can. So don't want to kind of put guys in a box now and then later be like, oh, hey, we want you to do X, Y, and Z. Kind of fill them all now and then bring it down tighter.
So with that depth, do you feel like you have a much deeper pass-catching core this season than you did maybe a year ago at this time?
I do at this time. Yeah, it's still a lot of work to be done in the offseason, but right now I think we feel much better about, probably we throw 7 or 8 receivers out there that we think you look right now and those guys have put on the work to play. And then, you had Gunner in the tight end group, and then all the running backs, Tony and Tajay, try to get them involved in the passing game as well. And all of a sudden you got a bunch of guys you can really get the ball to.
Gunner had a pretty good day yesterday. How has he kind of evolved into what he's doing now?
I was happy for him yesterday. Kind of, playing tight end is really hard. You've got to master the run game. You got to be involved in all the pass game. They're kind of outside of the quarterback and maybe center. It's probably the most mentally taxing position. And so for him to kind of go out there yesterday and just play really fast and make a couple explosive plays down the field, and then he had a couple really good blocks and some gap schemes, things like that. So for him to kind of have that day where it felt like a lot of it clicked was really awesome, where he didn't kind of have that up and down, kind of had just kind of one of those days, which is good.
Nick, that back and forth with Jeffrey Simmons and Cameron Ward, how do you like that conversation and how he's able to remain focused and still do what he has to do?
I wish I kind of had that level of poise at some point when somebody was talking to me like Jeff. But it was fun. I think that's an energy to practice. We, when it's handled well and it's kind of doesn't ever go too far, but it brings everybody's kind of energy level up a little bit. And probably on offense, it's a little something we've needed. We need a little bit of edge to us. And there's so far, it's June, whatever the day is, but Cam's got a little bit of that to him, and I think it's good. Everybody kind of feeds off of that, which is good.
What's the banter like between you and him and the coaching staff? I mean, does he kind of tell it like it is, even with you guys to some degree? What he likes, what he doesn't like?
He does. He's very willing to learn and try new things, but then he'll go, oh, I didn't feel that, or I do feel this. And he asks really good questions. He goes in, he can sit there and say, all right, I see this versus these 3 coverages, but what about these? Where do you guys want the ball to go? So that kind of experience coming from college and playing in all those different systems he played and as many snaps as he's played, I think give him the perspective of, all right, I know what to do with these. What do I do with these? And so there's always a very open line of communication. He's kind of an easy guy to talk to. And, he's the first guy to admit that when he screws it up, and he's really hard on himself. And it's easy to coach when you don't have to be hard on him.
Him being so on top of things and willing to learn and eager to learn. Have there been any moments where you're having to say, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves on this?
Yeah, he's got a couple things where he's trying to maybe go, hey, I could do this and give a hand signal out here and do this and do that and all these other things. And we're like, you may know that hand signal, but does the receiver know the hand signal? You got to kind of sometimes slow them down a little bit. And I think their eagerness is good, but there's also, we'll get to that point, but at the same time, we got to, walk before we run. Deal. Thanks, guys.
That is Nick Holtz, Titans offensive coordinator. Some good stuff there towards the end about Cam Ward, his confidence, kind of, not getting over his skis. I think that kind of brings a different connotation, but, I guess jumping the gun a little bit. We've talked about it. Rather say whoa than go. Rather say, what is it? Whoa than sick 'em is the way that Mike Tomlin has phrased it. So that has been a common thread on Cam Ward. And look, there's a lot of positive on Cam Ward right now. Unsurprisingly, there are no pads. He's been good. He's been accurate. We'll talk more about what he did on the field yesterday with Buck later on. We'll read some interesting stuff from Jim Wyatt as well with some praise for Cam Ward's performance at mandatory minicamp yesterday. So Dinard Wilson and John Fassel are still set to meet with the media. Dinard Wilson, the defensive coordinator, John Fassel, special teams. And I'm curious to hear, from both of those guys, Dinard Wilson for one, on Jeffrey Simmons, because obviously that's a talking point today. Jeffrey back on the field yesterday, and I won't say much has been made, but a little bit has been made of Jeffrey's absence from voluntary OTAs. He's back. He's vocal. He's being Jeff on the practice field. He's bantering back and forth with Cam Ward. And there doesn't seem to be an overwhelming concern in the facility about Jeffrey Simmons and his general presence. So we'll talk about that a little bit more later on in the show. Titans special teams coordinator John Fassel is up at the podium, and we will go to that live now on 104.5 The Zone.
It was like on the roster for a couple weeks or something like that. I got to do some research. Maybe help me with the year and all that. I can't remember, but sorry.
Where have you seen, I guess, your group maybe make the biggest strides from the time you got here until now, minicamp getting ready to end?
That's probably hard to say because we've really just drilled a lot of technique, some one-on-one stuff. So we really haven't got too much into 11 on 11 yet. So it's hard to know as far as like the competition part, who's really stepped up the most or where I've seen the biggest growth. I think it's more of instilling maybe a mindset of practice habits, chemistry, those type of things. But I'm really looking forward to training camp when we can get pads on and start competing in some of our one-on-one drills and then 11 on 11 stuff, where I think that'll be the biggest difference. But I told him this morning, I said I respect the heck out of the work ethic of this group. So that could be one thing, that everybody is a quiet worker. They seem very wanting and willing. I haven't had to prod or push really anybody to do some of the team stuff. So that's been cool.
So yesterday, Joey banged one through from, I think, 60 at the end of practice yesterday.
Yep.
The Titans over the last several years have had very good kickers, but kind of limited in their range.
Yep.
What is the weapon to have a guy who can line up and maybe hit from 60 on any given Sunday?
Yeah, great question. And I've had some experience the last couple of years with big leg kickers, and I think as long as there's an element of accuracy with it, I think it's a huge end-to-half, end-to-game weapon. Because we felt, in the years past where I've been with, Aubrey and Zerline, and then years ago at Janikowski, not unlimited range, but when you can have the ball just get us across the 50, there's not a relief, but there's a little bit of an aggressive factor. It's like I feel like, if we're down 3, down 2, down 1, that we could line up for a 66-yard field goal and have a good crack at it. So I've always been a fan of a guy that's got a big leg. I know that sometimes there's a misconception that a big leg equals lower accuracy, and the percentages might reflect that because he's an 82% kicker, but we also asked him to kick 5 field goals over 60 yards. But I think having a guy who can bang it, I've always felt is a huge advantage for the teams that I've been on. And he nailed it yesterday. I think he missed one from 59 and he hit it great. So the players wanted to reload, so we loaded it from 60 and he piped it.
As you mentioned, you're not able to do 11 on 11, but how do you work on the guys just being able to understand their lanes and coverage on those, punt and kickoff units?
Yeah, I think that comes with all the drills that we've been doing. So lanes and things like that, I'm not sure if for us that's what we do, But there's an element of, it's a great question, and it's kind of maybe a hard answer, but there's an element of, one-on-one stuff you can do, 3-on-3 stuff you can do, where there's a chemistry element to covering that maybe is more in our world as far as like what I'm teaching and what we're working on that you can do without doing 11-on-11 stuff. Just because of the rules for OTAs and all that, they take away a little bit of the 11-on-11 competition part, but we've learned over the years that there's a lot of, like I said, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, maybe get to 5-on-5 stuff you can do that you can work on the return game and the cover game and still get a lot out of it when it comes to chemistry covering. Because I think a big part of covering kicks, whether it's kickoff or punt, is having great chemistry between teammates, knowing I'm here, you're going to be here, and you're going to be here. So there's more of like a spacing than like a lane thing that the guys have to get accustomed to when they're covering with a teammate. And you don't need all 11 to do it. You're usually doing it in 2 or 3 man packs. And so that's kind of what we've been working on. That really fits into the OTA rules that we're allowed to do.
Guy, not the fastest guy, but what does he bring on the special teams element? Because as a undrafted backup rookie receiver, probably going to have to earn a role somewhere on teams.
Yeah, and that's a great question. And what I've learned is, if a guy's kind of pigeonholed as not the biggest guy or not the fastest guy, he usually has a lot of versatility. So without having maybe a predominant trait, but you got a lot of other good things, I think that's where some of the strengths lie in a lot of special teams guys, is their versatility. And I think his college tape proved that he can return the ball, but he can also block in the return game. And then, finding a spot for him on the cover game, there's always a spot for guys that are tweeners, I guess you could say, whether it's a gunner or a wing on punt or really anywhere on kickoff. So I find a ton of value in versatile guys. And sometimes when guys are super fast, they're really just one thing, and that's fine. Or they're really big and strong, they're just one thing. But the guys that are the tweeners, like a lot of times safeties are, they're not the biggest guy, but they're not the fastest guy. But man, they are so good because you can kind of match them up against both. And I think that's where Strepo kind of fits, is that versatile piece that we got to be creative with to get him on the field.
When you're starting fresh with the team, what's kind of your process of figuring out how guys can fit on all 4 teams when in practice they can only really work on the punt team, that can't be on both fields at the same time? Just kind of how do you figure out guys that can do multiple things and they only get one shot in a team spirit?
Yeah, great call. It is a puzzle piece for sure. I'm not sure, probably got a great answer, a secret sauce for that. I just know this time of year, like these last 8 weeks we've had, have been so valuable for us. And Coach Callahan's been great giving us time on special teams to kind of figure some of those things out. I think we do a lot of work, like one-on-one drill type stuff. We do a lot of matchup type stuff. So when we watch the tape and we watch practice, me and my assistant, who's fantastic, Coach Renee Stewart, we spend a lot of time on figuring out strengths of the players as it pertains to matchups. And I think that's how we get a feel for where a guy might fit in that puzzle as far as matchup, but also a position on each of the phases. I mean, we really try to say, hey, every guy that's really a special teams potential guy is a 4-phase guy. Like, you're not just punt and kickoff return. We love for gunner helm to learn how to cover kickoffs and learn how to play punt return, where sometimes those guys are just punt kick return. So we give everybody the opportunity to contribute on all 4 phases, because I think there's a spot for everybody on all 4 phases that's a backup offensive or defensive player. And it's a really fun part of the job, is trying to figure out where to put this guy position-wise and who do we match him up on.
Early, I guess with Father's Day coming up, I mean, how much do you think of him, lessons you learned from him growing up, lessons you maybe apply to coaching today?
Yeah. No, thanks for bringing that up, Jim. It was just a couple of days ago, it was the 4-year anniversary that my dad passed when I was in Dallas, and it was during a minicamp. And it was, heartbreaking news when it comes kind of out of the blue. But I've always been super grateful of my youth and my mom bringing me over to practice almost every day. And I grew up on a college football field, because until I got to my senior year in high school, my dad was a college coach. So I grew up on the college football field, and I was in all the practices, all the meetings, and just a rugrat running around. So I've always been super grateful for my time growing up to have access to coaches and players, and just seeing how they all interact And so I try to remember a lot of the lessons for sure that my dad either taught me directly or just me kind of through osmosis being around and hearing it. A lot of things stick with me, a lot of things. And they're more maybe the intangible stuff than the actual schematic and tangible stuff, which I think is the most important part of the game.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks, you guys. Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, that's Titans special teams coach John Fassel. Up next, defensive coordinator Dinard Wilson when we come back.
But somebody in his mold is never going to be Jeffrey Simmons in terms of his body type and his role. What is a reasonable next step for him to be more impactful in the pass rush?
Well, I think he's mastering his craft of what to do. His primary, secondary move. He has a better feel for what works well for him. So I think that as long as he keeps pressing himself and getting better and better at one or two moves, he'll get in better shape this offseason. That's one of the things we talked about, dedicating himself to transforming his body, becoming, lighter on his feet. Because when you watch him, he can do everything, from the standpoint of, being a big man now, how big he is, he can do everything. But just getting in better shape, fine-tuning his craft, working on the moves that work well for him. And then ultimately he uses his power. So if he gets a one-on-one, he can power rush anybody there is. And collapsing the pocket will help the defense.
Speaking of lighter on his feet, Jeff coming back in the shape that he did, how beneficial is that going to be for him and for you guys in the way that you play?
Oh, it's going to be beneficial all the way around. First of all, I'm jealous, right? Because when I look at him, I'm like, damn, he looks great right now. So he's inspired me to go get in better shape this offseason. So I might do a little bit of training. But I think that, Jeff is coming back and he's trying to be the best version of himself. He's in great shape right now, and his attitude is unbelievable. We have the mindset around here right now, and especially on defense, and every rep, everything we do, refuse to lose. And he has that mindset. He refuses to lose, and there's no excuse. And that's for all of us as a defense. And so I like where he's at. I like the energy that he brings when he's around here. I like the attention to detail, how demanding he is with the other players. So I think that Jeff's going to take another step. He's going to be the best version of himself, and, we'll line up, and people are going to have to deal with him.
Jeff's talked a lot about being double teamed, and is being 20 pounds lighter going to combat that in any way?
Anytime you're in the best shape of your life, you move better. All right, but a lot of the double team stuff, and with him, I can help him a lot. Just the way I present different fronts, the way I get the fronts to slide and, force protections to go away from him, but winning one-on-ones. But ultimately, look, if he's getting double teamed, that means someone else needs to step up. And if he's getting double teamed, someone else has a one-on-one. So we talk about Tavondre getting better as a pass rusher. We talk about Arden being better as a pass rusher. We talk about putting packages where some of these DNs might be defensive tackles. Now go ahead and slide to them, and now you got to deal with a better athlete with a one-on-one. So, it's not all about just Jeff. It's about all of us. It's about the structure of the defense. It's about the people around them. And the better we rush as a group, the better we rush as a whole, Jeff's going to get off, period.
What do you expect of him against double teams? Premier defensive tackles around the league.
Right. Well, look, is this when you get a double team, and if you know how to work, how the 4 guys work up front, it's 4 against 5. When you get the slide, all right, it's always either you work an edge or you work to split them, because you got to.
Titans coordinators are meeting with the media on day 2 of mandatory minicamp. Defensive coordinator Dinard Wilson is speaking now. We go to that live.
It's a hole where a quarterback can escape. So, like I said, Jeff's going to win, and he has been double teamed and won on double teams, but we have to do a better job up front, rushing together, being 4 against 5, all right, against their front, and then presenting certain packages to make it easier for him to win. Jeff's going to win against anybody. Jeff's a dominant football player. Every team in the National Football League would love to have 98 lined up on their defensive line.
Seem to have had a decent amount of success in the middle of the field. Mm-hmm. How much of that is what they're doing? How much of that is what you're doing?
Well, I think of it right now, like you're looking at us going out there and working, but we're also installing certain things every day. So there's certain defenses that have certain weaknesses or things that we're trying to get better at so we can get reps. Because OTAs, you don't get a lot of reps, you know. And it's a lot of stuff that we're putting in. So every day is something new. Like even today, it's a new install. All right, so it's been 9 days of OTAs and 3 days of minicamp. All 9 days that we've been out here, it's been new installs. So it's new stuff that we're presenting to them, and it's new stuff for our guys that's playing defense to go execute. And then ultimately, we got guys that haven't been here last year that's learning the defense. So it's nuances to it. Maybe they're too wide as a 3-hook player, or maybe they're not in the right spot right now. So it's things that we're correcting, we're teaching off of, and we'll get better at it.
Is there something you guys, I know you talk about the coordinated pass rush, but converting those pressures to sacks, what are some of the nuances you can focus on to make those into sacks?
Well, this is the first thing. We need to play attack football up front, okay? We can't play in 2-gap. We got to get off the ball. And that's been a point of emphasis for us this year. We're getting off the ball. We're going to fire off the ball. So if you fire off the ball, now it creates negative plays, more tackle for losses, and when you fire off the ball, it's easier to convert versus play action pass.
Veterans not out here, the DBs, you've got a pretty good look at some of the younger guys, UDFAs. What have you made of the younger group, and has anybody stood out to you?
Well, I think they're all progressing. Like I say, every day right now for them is new. So, like I say, today is a new install. So they're getting it for the first time. The real measure of those guys is going to be when we come back, the guys that put in the time to get their bodies in the best shape, that study in the offseason, and when we come back and compete for training camp, that's where you'll see where they'll really take off. Guys are going to rise up or guys are going to fall. So to me, it's let them get the basic fundamentals, let them understand what we're trying to get accomplished, understand where they're supposed to be in the framework of the defense, and then when we come back for training camp and the live bullets are going, that's where you'll really see who rises and who falls.
Are you already seeing promise from some of these guys to potentially earn a role?
I like a lot of these guys out here. I think obviously we did a great job of flipping over the roster. I talked about it the other day. You know, organizations are built from the bottom up, and you know, because when the top guys aren't performing or they're hurt, we need guys with depth. So I like where we're at right now. You know, Femi, obviously a second-round pick. He's done an outstanding job. Talked about him last time I was in front of you guys, how smart he is, the attention to detail. You know, to me, he's a tone setter, and that's what I expect from him, to be a tone setter, being able to collapse the pocket and being able to convert versus rushes. Marcus has done an excellent job right now. He has gotten multiple reps, and the list goes on and on. You know, I can't wait to see Kevin Winston out there. Y'all seen him, man. He's a big man that plays safety. I can't wait to see him perform and see if he maximizes his talents like he did at Penn State.
Jones, who comes from Seattle, kind of a similar system. How has he worked into your guys' system so far, and where do you see him at, or do you see him playing that versatile role?
Let me tell you something. I'm put a smile on my face because we got Draymond Jones. All right. Ultimately, like when you around Draymond, it's just not about the talent. Man, he's a great teammate. Like every day, he's trying to teach the other players, you know, how to be successful. Even, you know, I know people that played with him when he was in Ohio State, and it's carried over here. He's played in a similar system. in Seattle, being with Mike McDonald and that team and Mike and my relationship. So the coming over and learning the scheme has been easy for him. I think that Draymond can do numerous things. First of all, he's a bully off the edge. He's a bully off the edge. He can condense the pocket, right? He can win his one-on-one matchup. He's a guy that can reduce and go play a 3 technique if we need him, okay? So, Dre can do multiple things. He's smart enough to know the defense. He can drop in coverage. There's not many limitations that he have. But with all our defensive ends, I want them to be bullies. I want them to go ahead and collapse the pocket. I want them to set the tone, be tone setters in the run game, and make teams run in the phone booth. And he's a guy that can do that.
Barton been, and have you seen any separation from somebody on that job next to him, or will that come when the pads come on?
Well, Barton he's been great, great addition. He's a guy that, his wealth of knowledge and his experience, his attitude towards the game, his attitude towards learning, his attitude to get better, you love that about him. He's another guy that came from the bottom up. Right? He's a special teams player that became a starter in the National Football League, got paid, now he's a starter in the middle of our defense. He knows how to run a ship. He knows what's expected. He knows how to bring people with him. He's great around the guys. He's great around the young linebackers because he's had those experiences. So he's teaching them through his eyes, through his lens. So where he's at right now, and I love him, the young guys, they are progressing. Each day they're getting better and better. To me, it's when the pads come on. Who's going to really separate themselves. Right now, you don't see the physicality because obviously we can't get downhill in the run game, but it's about being in the right spots, having their eyes where they're supposed to be, getting lined up, communicating, moving the front when we need to do that. And these young guys have been progressing. I like where all the linebackers are at right now. I think all of them have a chance. I think that when the pads come on, 2 or 3 of them, they're going to rise to the occasion, and we'll have a good nucleus of linebackers.
Dinard for Jarvis Brownlee.
Well, the next step is this. Like we talked about it last time, being here, the penalties, right? So he has truly focused on not being grabby at the top of the routes. He's focusing on looking at the right things. The biggest thing that I love about Jarvis is this, because last year he was thrown in the fire, so everything was new. He's learned from his experiences, and now when he's out there right now, he's thinking about the game from a situational standpoint. Is it 1st and 10? Is it 3rd and short? How can I play? Where's my help? So he has a better understanding of the defense. He has a better understanding of how to play within the framework of the defense. He can do multiple things as well. Jarvis can line up and play corner and play nickel, and the best thing I love about him, he's a pit bull. And you can't take enough of those guys on the football field.
Lorenzo work in line with what you were talking about Draymond?
Been a perfect fit for us. Lorenzo's been a guy that was a 3rd-round pick, endless talent, was a basketball player. He can do everything athletically. Having guys like Steve Jackson and Frank Bush that was around him in Atlanta, you kind of know the makeup before he gets here. He's a guy, man, you got to press him and press him, but then you also got to love up on him. As long as you keep feeding him that every day, my thing with him is to tell him he's a bad MFer. All right, make him believe that he's a bad man, and every time he goes out there, he has to prove that he's a bad man. And we're trying to get everything out of him, everything that the NFL saw when he came out. And right now, he's loving the culture. He's loving being around here. The guys in the building, and I expect great things from him as well.
With Femi and he being a guy you're trying to develop, how do you go about figuring out, okay, I can't give him too much because I want him to play fast. I don't want him to have to, read so much and get after the passer, but you also want him to have a full role in the defense.
Well, look, this is how I was trained, and all the coordinators I've been around, and even back to when Buddy Ryan was a defensive coordinator. You throw the kitchen sink at him. You throw the whole playbook at them, and you see what they know and what they can retain and what sticks. And then once they understand the conceptual, the basic stuff, then you see what they can do. Then when you get in the games, you peel back. Because now you master what he does well. So right now, we throwing the kitchen sink at him. We're not slowing down for anybody. The train is moving. If you come in here as a free agent, you come in here as a draft pick, we're staying on the same course, and you got to catch up. Remember, they are professionals.
Getting Winston on the field. How creative can you be using him more than just as a safety, maybe as a rover or a dime linebacker and things where he can kind of be a wild card?
To me, I look at football as 11 X's. So you put him at one of the X's, he can still execute that job assignment. So any of the three underneath guys, whether it's the nickel, the Mike, or the dime, to me, it depends what the call is. But they're all playing the same responsibility. So, yeah, he has the versatility. He's a big guy that can go forward. He's good in the box. I think that he's underrated as a half-field safety and things of that nature. So just getting him here and letting him run around, and because remember now, when we get to camp, this will be his first time doing it. And then we got to see what he does well. And then if he's one of the best 11, one of the best 13, we have to find a way to put him on the field because he's going to help our defense win. So it's getting him here, seeing what he does well, letting him go out there, learn by doing, and then we'll find a place for him.
About that second inside linebacker spot. Do you consider that more of a starter role or a rotational role? How much you guys use that 9 tackles in?
I think that's to be determined, right? Like the one thing I do like about these young linebackers that we have, they have flexibility, they have versatility, right? But that goes back to the question that was just posed about the safeties. You know, Amani Hooker can play multiple spots as well. You know, so if we need a safety to go down and play dime on third down, if the guys we have playing it right now can do it, think about it. James Williams was a safety in college, all right? So it's versatility there. I think it's all going to play itself out. And like I said, in certain situations, the best 11 players will be on the field. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dinard.
Yep.
All right, that's Titans defensive coordinator Dinard Wilson. A lot there on the Titans newcomers. Draft picks, free agent acquisitions, Cody Barton, his role in this defense, and Draymond Jones, who, Robert, might be the most under-discussed, high-profile Titans acquisition. You think? I mean, we've talked ad nauseum about Dan Moore Jr. for good reason at left tackle, right? We've talked about every single one of these draft picks. But Draymond Jones is one that I feel like is, Cody Barton, we've talked about him, who's going to start next to him. But Jones, his versatility and the way the Titans are going to utilize him that might be different to how he was used in Seattle, which you heard Dinard Wilson detail a little bit, is something that could be so crucial to this team's pass rush, which is right at the top of the list in terms of some of the more concerning aspects of this team going into next season. I feel like we've not talked enough about Draymond Jones.
I think part of that is when he was signed, right? He wasn't signed in that initial flurry of moves that is usually equated to being like, oh, these are the best players going off at the first day, the first hour of free agency. He was kind of off in phase 2 of free agency, where the one-year deals get done, the prove-it deals. So I understand why it's been swept to the rug, but as far as impact of free agent signings, at least on that side of the ball, he has to be top of the list.
No, you're right. He wasn't signed in that legal tampering period, right? It was March 14th after free agency officially opened up, but like you said, all the big stuff happens a couple days before that. 1 year, $10 million deal, and I mean, Titans need something out of Draymond Jones in 2025. There's no way around it. So we'll get into more of what we heard from the coordinators later on in the show. Again, Buck will join us at noon. It is day 2 of mandatory minicamp. Day 3 will be tomorrow, and then we head into the rest of the summer ahead of training camp. So a lot to break down today, including Cam Ward and how he looked yesterday, turning some heads at Titans practice. Taj Spears also sat down with Buck, and we'll hear from the Titans running back later on in the show. Excuse me.
No.
What do we have to give away for the dumbest thing in sports this week?
What are you choking on?
I did not eat one of your persimmons today.
We have some Nashville Sounds tickets for the 18th. A week from today, you could be going to a Sounds game if you could tell us what the dumbest thing in sports is.
615-737-1045. Take Dad to a ball game to celebrate Father's Day next week. 615-737-1045. The best submission for the dumbest thing in sports this week is headed to First Horizon Park for a Nashville Sounds game. We'll do that next on 104.5 The Zone. Hey, friends, it's Lucas. If you're new to Nashville or you've been here a long time, odds are you've got a clean-out project on your honey-do list that is long overdue. Well, the most reliable folks I know that can help you are my friends at J&J Services. For over 20 years, J&J Services have been providing dumpsters for local businesses, construction sites, home cleanouts, and demolitions. They provide commercial dumpster service for your favorite restaurants and convenience stores. They provide roll-off dumpster service for everybody from 60-story high-rises to your neighbor's farm. J&J Services can offer trash compactors, making those large loads a little bit smaller. And they can supply you with porta potties. If you're hosting a special event, having a bunch of people over, call J&J Services for the safest, most reliable service that you can get in Middle Tennessee. 615-599-7778. Call today for a free quote. Again, that's 599-7778. JNJServices.com, where they always keep it trashy.
What's going on? 11:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Titans back on the field for mandatory minicamp today. We heard Brian Callahan, the coordinator, speak to the media earlier, and special teams coordinator filling us in on undrafted free agent wide receiver Xavier Restrepo and how his impact is not being just made on offense.
What I've learned is, if a guy's kind of pigeonholed as not the biggest guy or not the fastest guy, he usually has a lot of versatility. So without having maybe a predominant trait, but you got a lot of other good things, I think that's where some of the strengths lie in a lot of special teams guys, is their versatility. And I think his college tape proved that he can return the ball, but he can also block in the return game.
In free agent news, running back J.K. Dobbins signing with the Denver Broncos on a one-year, $5.25 million deal. The former Raven and Charger had 1,058 yards from scrimmage last season with 9 touchdowns. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5. The Zone.
(615-737-1045) is how you jump in to give us your submission. The winner, Robert Walsh, receives what?
Tickets to go see the Sounds a week from today, June 18th.
Well, that's good because it is Dad's Week on 104.5 The Zone. Listen live all week long for multiple opportunities to win tickets to games like the Nashville Sounds, Live Nation concerts, and much more. You can go to 1045thezone.com to learn more. Father's Day coming up on Sunday. Feels like a pretty good gift to get for Pops.
I learned something yesterday. The protector of the patriarchy, Ron Slay, yesterday was making sure that these tickets, I was informed of this morning with Ramon and Will, he was making sure that the tickets we were giving away for Dad's Week were real. So when they were calling, he's like, hey, here's the number, 615-737-1045. Slay was the first one to call in. So when Joseph picks it up, he's like, hey, man, what are these tickets going on? Are these real tickets? So if you are worried about that, if you're out there worried about, I can't get my dad no Fugazi tickets, Ron Slay is on your side. It is Dad's Week, and dads are going to get what they deserve.
Well, is Slay's worried that we're defrauding our great listeners?
Defrauding fathers is what he's worried about.
Goodness.
We get the short end of the stick. Mother's Day. Moms get all this stuff. What about the dads?
Well,
we're tired of ties and socks.
I understand wanting to make sure that these tickets do go to fathers, right? Like, it's Dad's Week. I don't, don't
well,
be.
Maybe they would be giving them to their father.
Yeah. I'm saying don't be winning tickets to take your homie to the baseball game.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
don't you and some girl you're trying to I'm trying to get in good favor with this here woman. Yeah, give it to your daddy.
This is for Dad, all right? 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. The best submission will get a pair of Sounds tickets. I'll start the bidding. The dumbest thing in sports this week, the U.S. men's national team. I had the privilege yesterday of calling the USA-Switzerland friendly on Westwood 1. If you were driving around, you might have heard it here on the Zone. We were carrying the game. Right as I say, get it for Dad, Robert, 2 callers dropped off. Nope, not getting Dad these tickets.
It was for my mama.
Well, hey, look, that's okay too. The state of the U.S. men's national team, as we are exactly 1 year out, a year from today, the 2026 FIFA World Cup comes to North America. Canada, the U.S., and Mexico hosting. It'll be kicked off at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. It is the biggest moment for U.S. soccer in its history, as the biggest sporting event on the planet comes to U.S. soil, and the U.S. were dreadful yesterday. 4-0 in the loss to Switzerland. They were lifeless, conceded 4 goals in the first 36 minutes. They had no identity about them whatsoever, and you could say it's because several star players weren't there, understanding it was a very much a B/C team against a pretty A team that Switzerland rolled out there. But you can't really take solace in that because the last time all of U.S.'s stars were playing was back in March against Panama and Canada in Nations League, and they were embarrassed and they were uninspiring. So don't need to go on a diatribe, don't need to get on my soapbox, but the general state of this program right now is in a dire place. 4-game losing streak for the first time since 2007. It's the worst vibes around the U.S. men's team, not women's, men's team since they missed the World Cup in 2018, Robert Walsh. This is a terrible situation that they're having to dig out of with the Gold Cup coming up starting this weekend, where they can fight to win the North Central American crown and create any kind of positive momentum. But dumbest thing in sports this week, yesterday, a bunch of guys that probably aren't going to be on the World Cup roster next year trying to get this team back into a positive way ahead of the World Cup next year, while its stars are, some of them, taking the summer off. Everything is bad right now with this group.
You know what I think it was?
Go ahead.
I think it was you.
Oh.
I think you're bad luck.
It might be. Because Saturday, they lose to Turkey 2-1, but they showed some fight. There was some positivity there, and Turkey's a decent side. And these are a bunch of MLS players, too, largely on this roster, unproven, just fighting, scratching, clawing. And then looking to take that step against Switzerland, who's better than Turkey. Oh, they fell flat on their face, and it was hard to watch. Maybe it is me.
Oh, I'm hungry. Turkey and Swiss. And there's one thing.
It was a sandwich weekend.
There's two things I can't stand, Lucas. And one is it's people that are intolerant of other people's cultures. Can't stand it. And the second are the Swiss. God, I hate those people. Very hoity-toity. Oh, we make watches. We're very neutral. Everyone here's happy.
I was going to say, famously neutral folks.
Yeah, get out of here, man. Pick a side. If you're not on our side, you're against us. My dumbest thing in sports, I'm just going to read this headline for you, and then we can evaluate. Kentucky man arrested for releasing a raccoon into a business months after fleeing police on a mule. When you see a picture of this guy, all of that makes sense. And I can't really fight with his thinking, the thinking pattern here, because if you're going to weaponize an animal, a raccoon is a great place to start. Kind of like the Trojan horse of woodland creatures, because naturally they're pretty cute. You're like, oh, are you stealing my cat's food?
Yeah, I want a pet raccoon.
Oh, what do you want to pet everything. You love all animals, which I respect about you. But then they get close. Carry rabies, sharp teeth. You can't grab them by that tail. They can reach up. Unlike like crabs have a blind spot in the back. Have you ever been crabbing before? Threw a turkey neck in the water?
No.
Never been crabbing. Crabs have a blind spot in the back where you can pick them up on the back of the shell. They can't reach you to pinch you. Raccoons ain't got that now. You grab that tail, they are going to find a way to get back to you. So this man threw a raccoon into a business. I can only assume what the issue is. My other part is fled on a mule. Fled on a mule. I would have weaponized the mule. I would have sent the mule in there. Do you know donkeys kill more people every year than lions, bears, and tigers combined?
I believe that.
Also, great at warding off coyotes. If anybody out there in the
donkeys?
Yes.
What, does their bleating scare the when I say like BLEAT?
Yeah, bleating. I'm with you.
Bleating.
Like,
that scare away the coyotes?
No, I think it's the two back hooves that they kick them in the head with. I think that's what scares them off. My dad has two mules, Jenny and Jane, and both of them are very cool, very adept at putting holes in coyotes' heads. So,
great names for mules.
The more you know. So my dumbest thing in sports, a fella trying to weaponize not only a raccoon, but implicating a mule in his crimes. Come on, you're better than that, Kentucky.
Man.
Probably not, though.
I do want a pet raccoon, though. 615-737-1045. We will get to the phones. Trevor in Goodlettsville up next. Hey, Trevor.
Hey, so my dumbest thing in sports is these NCAA commercials where they talk about how altruistic they are by giving full scholarships, medical insurance, all these things. You know, the things that they fought against doing for 100 years. You know, kind of like Ted Bundy, you know, putting out the commercial saying, I volunteered to go to the electric chair.
Thanks for the call, Trevor. I mean, they have been giving out full scholarships for years, but I get what you're saying. The NCAA putting out PSAs and commercials about doing things in the best interest of student athletes is a little bit laughable.
We care.
Yeah.
We care.
Yeah. Michael in Lebanon is up next. Hey, Michael.
Hey, I think gone are the days of where fighting in hockey is two guys dropping gloves and actually throwing hands. I was watching that Edmonton Panthers game the other night. These guys got their gloves on. They're acting like to fight, but they're actually, I think they were hugging and kissing. They showed a close-up of one of them, and I thought he had a bloody lip, but I think it was his lipstick was here. But anyway, fighting used to have, you know, it was either because two players were pissed at each other, and so they dropped their gloves and they actually fought, or it has strategic implications. But I think those days are gone. I say, guys, just play the game. If you're not really going to fight, don't pretend.
Thanks for the call, Michael. Yeah, I think I'm with you. It's rare these days to see like actual haymakers being thrown. It's largely just these guys at arm's length just grabbing onto the jerseys and just trying to get these hits in, but nothing's really landing. Now, the end of that game was fun because I was with Michael at first. I was like, it's 5-1, guys. Let's just finish this out. But then everybody started dropping gloves, and it was 5-on-5.
It was like semi-pro. Like, everybody punch somebody!
Quite literally. I mean, we played the audio yesterday of that 9-year-old girl with the TV reporter in Sunrise. What was your favorite part? When they punched each other. I mean, it was adorable. So I did end up enjoying that moment, but I get where Michael is coming from.
Also, if you wanted to stop people from fighting, maybe you should implement the hugging and kissing rule. Like, if you're like, no more fighting. If you fight, you're expelled. You can never play in this league again. If you want to fight, you got to hug and kiss it out.
After. Like, you can fight all you want.
But then afterwards, you have to get. It's kind of like when your parents, I don't know if your parents ever did this, you and your siblings would be arguing about something very small and they'd pull out the big T-shirt. Did that ever happen to you?
You've brought this up before, and the idea of you and your brother, who I've met as kids, and sharing a giant T-shirt with your bloody noses is hilarious to me. This was never, my parents never exercised this with me and my sister.
I remember once me and my other two brothers had gotten a fight about something. Somebody got hit with a shovel, and they brought out the big T-shirt, but we couldn't fit 3 heads through the hole. So each one of us, I got the middle hole, and then both of my brothers got an armhole.
A shovel!
And it gets rough over there. And I'll say this, my youngest brother is the retaliator, so when something happens, if he has done wrong, he will retaliate in a very cheap way. I've been hit by shovels. He's thrown snakes at me.
So he's the escalator.
Yes, 100%. Like we were talking about crabbing earlier. Went on a crabbing trip. I said something to him that offended him. Later that night, I woke up and there were crabs in my bed.
You're leaving out what you said.
Well, that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about what was done wrong to me.
I think it is here and there. Peyton in Hendersonville is up next. Hey, Peyton.
Hey, how are y'all?
Good, man. What you got?
So my dumbest thing in sports is the interviewing of the players during play, like especially in baseball. If you're playing first, second, third base, shortstop, at any given moment, you can have a ball that comes off the bat at 100+ miles an hour. And while you're sitting there trying to play a game, you're sitting there have to answer questions. I mean, while it may be cool for the people on TV, like, let's just leave the players alone. Jazz Chisholm for the Yankees, I think it was Sunday Night Baseball, and he's sitting there getting interviewed. He's trying to catch a ball, and he does it back to first, and he completely just whiffs on the throw, and it was an error. I just think that interviewing players in any sport is my dumbest thing in sports.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Peyton. Somebody called in with that for Oh No yesterday, and it's a good submission. I mean, that was bound to happen at some point. And for spring training, right, for stuff like that in the preseason, all about it. But, yeah, I think I'm with you there, Peyton. But, just a desperate attempt to make watching a baseball game entertaining.
No, y'all, don't be taken away. If I'm a player and I get the opportunity for Taylor Rooks to interview me, don't you take away my – listen.
You've got an earpiece in, and you're talking to the guys in the booth. Nobody's on the field with a microphone.
I want to talk to Taylor Rooks now. Y'all leave me alone. I get one chance to shoot my shot. Don't get rid of these interviews.
Cedric in Clarksville's next for a chance to win Sounds tickets. Hey, Cedric.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
What you got, man?
So, you got Aryna Sabalenka, who lost to Coco Gauff in the French Open final.
Ah, yes.
And she said that she had 70 unforced errors. If there's 70 errors, those are not all unforced. The girl was better than you. Imagine if Derrick Henry said he had 70 unforced fumbles, or 7 unforced interceptions, or 70 unforced turnovers in a basketball game. That means your opponent put enough pressure on you that you couldn't handle the pressure. That's got to be the dumbest thing I've ever heard in sports.
Cedric, thank you for the call. Stay on hold for your chance to win the tickets. This is great. A great submission. Great delivery by Cedric. Sabalenka, I imagine most people, I actually tuned in a little bit to the French Open final. Coco Gauff beating Sabalenka. coming out saying she didn't play incredible, I just made a lot of mistakes. No. She beat you. She straight up beat you. It's a great call by Cedric. Sabalenka, the sorest loser of the year so far in 2025. Just a terrible, terrible response to that game, giving no credit whatsoever to Coco Gauff, who is turning into a star in women's tennis. It's a great submission. Cedric in Clarksville, I think, should win the dumbest thing in sports. Tickets to the Nashville Sounds. What do you think?
Yeah, that's cool with me. Remember when everybody was so mad at her for not talking to the media because of her mental health stuff?
Coco Gauff?
Yeah, and everyone's like, oh, she needs to talk to the media. Leave her alone. What are we doing? She's a star.
Yeah. Good submission by Cedric. He is headed to hopefully take Dad to see the Nashville Sounds. Coming up next, Bucks sit down with Titans running back Taj Spears. A lot of good stuff in this conversation. We'll play it for you next.
Two Rivers Ford is having a free family event this Saturday from 9 to noon to celebrate Police Week. Blue and You is your chance. Two Rivers Ford has a huge announcement. Employee pricing for everyone. That's right. You pay what they pay on almost every new Ford on the lot. It is a great time. It's always a great time shopping at Two Rivers Ford. They make the car buying process fast, easy, and more fun, and they are known for their award-winning customer service as well as the quality American-made Ford vehicles that they have on offer. Over 4 decades operating this way. It's why they're one of the most trusted businesses anywhere in the country, and certainly right here in Middle Tennessee. Employee pricing for everyone is what they are offering to you right now, and they don't price gouge at Two Rivers Ford. They don't tack on extras just to get the price point a little higher. It's always honest and upfront, which is why one of my favorite reasons that I am a customer of Two Rivers Ford. In fact, I was just out there on Saturday getting my car serviced, getting some errands done before draft week officially upon us. And I'm not going to lie, looking at those Broncos, employee pricing for everyone. So many great vehicles out there on the lot. Go check them out just 7 miles east of Nashville International Airport or online at tworiversford.com.
One Titans player that we haven't talked a lot about this offseason is running back Taj Spears. Coming off a season plagued by late season injuries, really when he started to come on. And obviously that was complemented by Tony Pollard just grabbing the reins of that role as RB1 and having a career season despite a terrible year in Tennessee. Taj Spears, the former third rounder out of Tulane, remains on this roster and figures to play a role on this offense this coming year, given or assuming he can stay healthy, which has yet to happen throughout the course of a season. His rookie year, it wasn't much of an issue. Last year took a step back in that regard, missing 5 games. And Brian Callahan had some interesting comments on Tajay yesterday in his press conference, and Buck got a chance to sit down with the Titans running back. So we go to that interview now. This is Buck with running back Taj Spears.
Hanging out here with Taj Spears after mandatory minicamp day 1. It's good to see you, Bob.
Hey, good to see you too, man.
How'd it go out there today? Look, you guys look pretty crisp from the untrained eye, but I get your firsthand assessment.
Yeah. It was a good day today. Offense, we came out here, from a long weekend, and we did well.
Yeah.
We did well. Just building. It was a great OTA session going into the vet minicamp. So yeah.
So for you building off OTAs, understanding things change when you get to training camp.
Yeah.
Gets real football. This is as close as we can get in the meantime. But what was your emphasis building from OTAs into the day 1 of minicamp and obviously working through the next couple?
Just keep on stacking the days. Just take one day at a time. Like you said, it's kind of hard right now because training camp ain't here. And you're like, damn, I want to play real football. But, you got to slow yourself down and say, let's focus on this right now. We do one thing at a time. Just keep on stacking day by day.
Especially for you, last year not going to plan as far as being available and stuff like that. And, the concussions are just the worst thing in the world to deal with. But, I imagine that you had to reiterate that message to yourself a couple times last year and among the other frustrations with what was going on.
Yeah, it was a lot of frustrations, like you said. Of course, like health issues, some things that's out of my control.
Sure.
But I try to put them in my control this time by, doing extra stuff to like prep my body, waking up early, staying hydrated, different things like that.
Who over there chirping at you?
I don't know, somebody, man. You know how they be, but nah, though. Just doing extra things to give me the edge, or to keep me healthy.
Yeah. So when did you make the decision for the Guardian cap specifically? Because you and Wiley and a couple of guys. Yeah, I mean, those things, they've been proven to reduce the percentage by a significant amount. I'm sure it's not, not the easiest decision to make, even though it's obviously in the best interest of your health.
I always kind of been like a player like that, bang, bang. Like I take some shots. Yeah. And after the first concussion, I felt it, like I hit the ground, and I'm like, yeah, I think it's time for me to start putting that Guardian cap back on.
Yeah. And it was, obviously something that, you're taking the measures to make sure that you can be as available as humanly possible and protect yourself, because obviously you're looking to have as long and healthy a career as humanly possible.
No, for real, that's what it's all about.
Tell me about young gun out there, Cam. He's we're just starting to get to know him, but you obviously have a little more day-to-day exposure to him than we do.
Yeah, he out there operating, operating on a high level. He look like he's been here for a long time. He don't look like a rookie, like what people would say. Like he already, he's advanced and like he's doing a good job, like with the guys and making the calls in the huddle. Like it's the way he like conduct the huddle. That's like outstanding.
Yeah.
That's like probably like the best compliment you can get. The way he conduct the huddle. Like he's a natural leader. He gonna pull guys along just by his, just by his personality, who he come out there and be every day. So.
Well, and you could speak that better than most, Tajay, because you are, just based on my experience dealing with you, you're as authentic a person as you come across, and I think that authenticity for Cam, it's not always easy for a rookie coming in and having that command.
Yeah.
But with you guys, it's just about be who you are all the time, and that will get you the respect on top of performing, of course.
Yeah. No, just out of the programs I came up under, especially like my high school head coach, he installed discipline in me, and Coach Willie Fritz, man, he, basically he taught me all these different things that, that I didn't know coming out of high school. So I had a great background of structure. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, the offensive line, there are a lot of new pieces and parts every year at this level. Obviously, things move around a lot, but the new offensive line and now year 2 for you and TP and the rest of the group with Randy. What are you looking forward to showing people when you can finally get in the pads before we get to preseason and the rest?
We just want to play on the same page. Whatever it look like, we just want to be on the same page. Like, I feel like whatever relationship you're in or whatever, I just feel like when you're on the same page, that's when things go to new heights. That's when you go to accomplishing things that you never could have thought about accomplishing. You know what I'm saying? As long as we do it together, I feel like we'll be all right.
And you feel that the offseason program that they've designed has helped foster a lot of that?
I feel like we're coming together.
Okay.
It's going to be different.
Sure.
We chirping at the defense, they chirping at us. Oh, we ain't got no pads on. Of course we
I got a kick out of Cam chirping at Jeff a little bit.
Yeah, that was funny.
They don't waste no time.
They're going to be talking all Cam.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be right there with Cam, like, yo, whatever he say, that's what we going with.
Yeah, no doubt. So give me a leaderboard update on the offseason competition. Who's on your team?
I'm on Hook team.
Okay.
He the leader.
Okay.
Him and Heck, the kicker.
Yeah.
I don't know about nobody else, but I know we gonna win it all.
Okay.
I don't know nobody because I look at it and I kind of watch our team and I try to watch how our points fluctuate.
So you coming in every day and checking the leaderboard and stuff because I know they got it up.
Yeah, you got to. But I'm looking at my team though. I don't really. Right now you kind of got to.
Here come trouble.
Yeah. Right now you got to be a little selfish and focus on your own team.
Yeah, no doubt. But so I guess where. And obviously new pieces and parts for a lot of different people last year coming in and trying to figure it out and didn't go to plan. But what do you think you guys are able to do this offseason through that program that maybe, might have been missing? Not intentionally or anything like that, just because there's so many different things moving around.
Connection and accountability. Like, man, we've been here, 2-3 months? How long OTAs is?
OTAs, about a month and a half, I'd
We've
say.
been here a month and a half.
Feel like 2-3 months, probably.
I know. We've been here a month and a half, and not that many people, from the O-line, running backs, and offensive side of the ball perspective, not that many people miss, consecutive days. They probably miss 1 or 2. If that, that's max. So the connection and accountability, we go out there every day and work our tail off, and we all trying to strive towards one goal, and that's win.
Yeah, and I think that for the audience, that sometimes that gets lost in the shuffle about the connection that you guys need to create to be able to operate at that level, because you see big, fast, tough, strong football players. You don't necessarily think about the emotional components, but I mean to get on that same wavelength, and also for the mental necessity of just making sure that you guys, know each other and are working for each other. Not that you weren't before, but that you have that connection to work towards together.
Yeah, it's just like a puzzle, man. If you got a bunch of cool, good-looking pieces with a lot of colors on them, and if they don't fit at the end of the day, you will never see the bigger picture that you was trying to, the bigger picture that you were trying to create.
Yeah.
But now if you got all these cool looking pieces and you got, and they can fit together, now that's when the outcome, that's when everything, the big things come, the division championship, then on to going to the playoffs, then to the Super Bowl. That's when, we're just trying to create the picture, the right pieces.
Well, it's good to sit down with you again, bud.
I appreciate it.
Good to see you. Yeah, it's always a pleasure. All right, so I'm doing a couple of these. Who needs to be the next victim here? Who's next in the chair? We had Barton last week.
Barton?
Yeah.
Okay, who next?
He a talker, by the way.
Oh, hell yeah. So you're going defense, offense. Let's go back with James again.
James Williams?
Yep.
Okay, what do I got to ask James about?
What you got to ask him about? Ask him.
Hell, you might as well come over here and do this interview.
Yeah, just ask him. You got to figure out what you're going to do. That's your job.
Thanks, Steve.
I appreciate it,
Good
man.
to see you.
Have a good day, Doc.
You too.
That's Taj Spears. Oh. That's Taj Spears with Buck yesterday. I didn't like that.
You didn't like hearing yourself back?
No, please.
Just echo chamber. Dude, has there ever been a more genuine person talking to a less genuine person?
Oh, my God.
In the history of history.
I love listening to Buck interview Titans players like he's flirting with a girl at the bar. It cracks me up, man.
Genuine.
You're so authentic, Tajay.
You're just so you.
Yeah, and then I don't even know who, James Williams, whoever comes by chirping. Oh, here comes trouble.
Here comes trouble.
Oh, look who it is.
You look like trouble. You stop it. No, you stop it. Stop pinching me. Like, come on, dude.
I'll always get a kick out of it. At least that time, Buck didn't cuss to seem cool, like the hello, fellow kids. Hey, it's cool. I'm okay. I'm one of you. But I'm even going to cuss on this interview to make it seem like I'm really cool. He at least didn't do that to where you had to scramble around to get it out.
No, but he did shoot the video upside down. So when I re-rendered it to our system, it was an upside down video.
So when he doesn't cuss, he botches the video.
Correct. I also thought if you were missing the actual visual part of the interview, it's going to be up on YouTube later today. But if you were on the stream watching, you see that Buck is in a very colorful T-shirt. And I thought that Tajay was his analogy of if you try to put too much on in a fit, if you got a lot of colorful pieces, but they don't really go together, it's not going to look good.
Right.
I thought he was dunking on Buck.
Very veiled.
And Buck was like, oh, Tajay, you're so genuine. Here comes trouble.
Oh, man. But no, Buck's fake laugh with Titans players. always entertaining. Cracks me up. But no, I mean, look, Tajay, good stuff there from the Titans running back that you did hate to watch that last year as he was just kind of starting to grow into the season, and he's about to have his first 100-yard rushing game of the season. He does. He has 100 yards in that Jags game, the second one late season in Jacksonville, and then the concussion is on a 5-yard loss that takes away the 100-yard game and rules him out for the remainder of the season. So step back production-wise for Taj Spears, who, again, to his credit, played in all 17 games his rookie year. 453 rush yards, and that's an average of 4.5 yards per carry, a pair of touchdowns, and a threat catching the ball out of the backfield. We forget, Bert, that Taj Spears had 52 catches in his rookie year. It's a lot for a running back. 70 targets with 385 yards and a touchdown. In fact, while you talk, I'm going to look up how that stacks up with this past season, which running backs led the league in catches.
To me, that just seems like a quarterback, or in Tajay Spears' rookie season, quarterbacks that were in peril, right? The offensive line was crashing around them. You had to dump the ball off pretty quickly, and Tajay was the beneficiary of that.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the yards per catch, it wasn't a world beater number because, again, he is catching the ball behind the line of scrimmage, which is like -2, -3 yards. To make any yards out of that is hay, but it's still not going to make the number look any better than it did initially.
So last season, Devon Achane, have we settled on the pronunciation of this name? I feel like
I think it's Achane.
It has gone a million different directions. Achane had 78 catches, which is a lot. That's a lot of catches for a running back. Kamara had 68. Bijan 61, and then it drops down to 57, 54 in that range. So Tajay Spears had enough catches in his rookie year for a top 5 season by a running back catching the football, 70 targets. Takes a step back last season with 84 carries for 312 yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. He played in 12 games, so missed 5, had 30 catches, 22 less than 2024 for 224 yards and a touchdown. This was Brian Callahan yesterday when asked about Tajay Spears and what he's seen from the Titans running back heading into year 3.
One of the things about Tajay is I heard a lot about Tajay when I got here, about the type of person and the player that he was. And we've had conversations, but he did have a challenging year, both personally and professionally. And there was some things that we've had to sit and visit about on different occasions. And I give a lot of credit to him because he's had an unbelievable offseason in terms of his energy, his effort, his clarity, and what he wants to get done. So I've been really pleased with where Tajay's at. He's a great example, and it's not something that's maybe as easy for you guys to see, but his personal growth, I think, has been outstanding. And I'm really excited to see what he can bring to us this year because he's been in a great place, and he's had a really nice offseason.
So that's Brian Callahan talking about Tajay Spears. We put it to a poll, over-under for 2025. Tajay Spears with 600 total yards of offense. And what do you think? We'll update the polls at the end of the show. At Lucas Panzica is still where you can go vote. Robert, what do you think the majority of the audience is voting? Over or under 600 total yards for Tajay?
I think the audience learned their lesson last year because if you remember the conversation we had about the duo of Spears and Pollard, everyone was saying it would be a 2,000 yards combined duo. I think everyone learned their lesson for that, so I'm going to say under.
He had 838 total yards of offense in his rookie year. Last season, Tajay Spears had 536. Right now, the majority, and it's not much of a majority, about 51% are saying over, but it's pretty split. And it has to do with health, right? If Taj Spears has a healthy 17-game season, I believe that the Titans went into last year with the idea of Taj Spears and Tony Pollard being almost interchangeable. That was our entire discussion going into last year. 1A, 1B, who's 1A, who's 1B? I guess we'll see.
I even remember thinking like it was going to be a 50-50 split.
Yeah,
like that,
exactly.
That there would be no lead dog and it would be a committee.
Exactly. And it wasn't that. It was Tony Pollard all the way. And now we're going into 2025 with that mindset because we've seen Tony Pollard do it. We've seen multiple 1,000-yard seasons for Tony Pollard. He's on 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons as an NFL back, a career year last year with the Titans, 1,079 yards, averaged 4.2 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns. But that is something that we discussed a lot going into last year that has taken a bit of a back seat this year because there's this assumption that, no, Tony Pollard's the lead back. And look, best case scenario, to be honest, there's a reality, Robert, where the Titans offense is leaps and bounds better than it was last season, and Tony Pollard's not a 1,000-yard rusher. Because the Titans were forced to lean on Tony Pollard last season in a way that they did not want to. The Titans did not go into last year with the idea of becoming a ground and pound offense, right? It's part of what had us Titans fans at the end of the season saying, okay, we gave up Derrick Henry for this. Thought we gave up Derrick Henry to expand the offense, to be more versatile. And they tried to be that, but they were hamstrung by so many things, and we don't have to relitigate it. Right tackle play, quarterback play. I mean, the list goes on and on. Just play. Football play. Yeah. Offensive football play held them back. So there could be a better scenario for the Titans this year if Tony Pollard and Taj Spears both are under that 1,000-yard mark. If they both have healthy seasons, there's a world where that happens. This offense is much, much better and has more ways to hurt a defense in 2025. But the hope for Taj Spears is that he can come back healthy. And you just hate for him that it's been all these things that weren't even the concern coming out, right? It was the knee that was the concern coming out of Tulane. And since then, it's been a shoulder here. It's been concussion there. So you hope for his sake, certainly, that he can get back to that 17-game run that he had in his rookie year. And Brian Callahan has liked the offseason the Titans running back has had. So we'll see how those duties get split up this year. And a lot of it will certainly have to do with health because Taj Spears was playing good football before he picked up that concussion on the back end of the year. I understand the Titans were pretty much out of contention, but big training camp upcoming for him. And for Cam Ward, who flashed yesterday. We will hear from Brian Callahan earlier today talking about Cam Ward and hear some observations about the Titans quarterback next on 104.5 The Zone.
The Tennessee Men's Clinic is such a great resource. It's been such a great resource for guys over the last decade plus working here in Middle Tennessee. And at some point in your life, as your body starts to change, as you start to age, you may be feeling like you've got a little less energy. You may be feeling like performance issues have started to pop up, and you may have resigned yourself to the fact that those things just happen. It doesn't have to be that way. Whether it's low energy or those performance issues that I mentioned, those aren't inevitable. And in fact, solutions exist. The Tennessee Men's Clinic difference is that there's no guesswork and no gimmicks, just real science and effective treatments. Because you don't want to mess with online fixes that oftentimes give you generic pills that are overpriced and most times ineffective. They will offer you at the Tennessee Men's Clinic personalized treatment plans with multiple urologists and providers on hand to tailor solutions specifically to your body and to your goals. Their men's services are comprehensive, whether it's ED treatments or testosterone and other options that many guys don't even know exist. Call them today at 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090 or visit them online at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com today.
Mandatory minicamp, day 2 at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. And it's a lot of the same work that the team is getting in or was getting in last week during voluntary OTAs, just extended, right? More time on the field, more time in the classroom for these 3 days before you go into the summer. Take a little bit of a break. And we heard Nick Holtz talking about this rookie class and just needing a bit of a step back and a mental break with that grind of the pre-draft process and then rookie minicamp and OTAs and mandatory minicamp. But the hype has been there for Cam Ward all the way through, as expected, for a number 1 overall pick at quarterback. The hype continues to grow. And I have to say it caught my eye when Jim Wyatt and TennesseeTitans.com puts in his article, Observations from Titans Minicamp on Tuesday, when quarterback Cam Ward ended practice with 18 straight completions. And the first 2 sentences from Jim Wyatt here. Now, again, this is Jim Wyatt, right? Not some Titans fan blogger that's just trying to get people on Twitter to click on Cam Ward, dumping the ball down to a running back. This is Jim Wyatt we're talking about. He opens with, the Titans hit the field on Tuesday for the first day of the team's 3-day minicamp. Here's a look at some observations from today's session. The first note is Cam Ward, oh my. He says, on the first day of the team's minicamp, the Titans rookie quarterback was intercepted for the first time this offseason by linebacker Cody Barton on a throw across the middle, which we might have...
I feel like we got a preview of
We
that.
got the scoop of that, I think, yesterday. Jim says it came during an early 7-on-7 period on Ward's third pass of the day. So what did Ward do? He completed his next 18 passes in practice, including 6 of 7 in 7-on-7, in a perfect 14 of 14 in team periods, making him 20 of 21 for the day. It was Ward's best practice of the offseason. Now, I, like you, remember Marcus Mariota's interception-less streak. Okay, so we do not need to sit here and put a ton of weight into this. But I will say, I would much rather the quarterback I'm trying to figure out about, this young quarterback, throw an interception early and go on that run of 18 straight completions than not throw an interception the entire practice.
I agree with you. And I don't want to go on the whole diatribe we went on yesterday about interceptions, but we don't know the drill they're in. We don't know the situation they're in. We don't know what kind of practice they're influencing. Is it 3rd and long? Is it goal line? Is it, okay, I need you to make this throw in this tight window? We don't know what they're doing. We have no context to the interceptions, but broadly, this is impressive and encouraging.
Yeah, and also no context to the completions, right?
Correct.
Like there's
They could have been dump-offs. They could have been short.
There's
passes.
asterisks all over the place. But this was Brian Callahan earlier today. We carried his presser live at the start of the show, talking about Cam Ward and that ability to bounce back from throwing an early pick.
Yeah, great to see. You're going to, quarterbacks throw interceptions. I don't know how many quarterbacks. I'd have to look at it to know for sure, but most guys throw somewhere between 8 and 12 on a really good year. So interceptions happen. How you respond to them and how you bounce back in a game is always really important. It certainly didn't shy him away from throws, which is what you want to see. That they just they kind of get ready and throw it again, and that's a good thing to see and for a young player in his position in practice. So pleased to see that kind of response. Pleased to see his performance afterwards.
How did Mike McCoy maybe hiring transpire?
That's Brian Callahan talking about Cam Ward's ability to respond to an interception. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in today. Also on 1045 The Zone TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. A lot of you in here talking about the rookie quarterback. Be sure to hit the like button while you're there and subscribe to the Zone YouTube page. So, again, it's not an end-all, be-all. It's not the end of the world if he's making mistakes. At mandatory minicamp, we're months away. James, in all caps on the F&M Bank chat, says, it's practice. I understand. But again, this is all we have to react to at the moment. I think we can have the ability to react in a measured capacity. And when Jim Wyatt opens his article with observations from Cam Ward's second rookie minicamp practice, mandatory minicamp practice with Cam Ward, oh my, I put stock in that because we're talking about Jim Wyatt.
I feel like you're not putting enough emphasis behind the oh my. Do you know George Takei?
The actor, yeah.
And he'll, oh my. I need to find it. I know
Okay.
I don't have it right now. No, I'll run you over with it at some point. Don't get all fussy. You're sitting in that chair so long. Now I'm gonna have to hit you with
No.
Yeah, I'll hit you with I'll hit you with the echo chamber. See, we didn't even know we had these torture devices back
That
here.
echo chamber is like
Next.
This is not good radio. That is your spray bottle. That is your spray bottle to your cats is what that is. So, yes, that is how you whip me into shape, for sure. And then this was Brian Callahan towards the end of his press conference today, talking about Cam Ward's ability to just refocus, his ability to relay a play call while listening to the next one. This was the head coach.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not used to calling plays to a quarterback who's usually still talking when I'm talking to him. And that's great. And so I asked this and I said, just help me out here. I said, do you need me to wait till you finish? And he goes, no, I'm listening. So he's hearing what I'm telling him, and it was a pretty remarkable to see all the things going on and how much he's talking, but like his brain is still like with me, I guess is the best way to put it. Like when I'm calling him play, he's doing all he's doing, but he's listening to everything I'm telling him, and he enters right into the huddle and he calls a play and doesn't script the play call. And I thought that was actually kind of remarkable. I don't know, I couldn't do that. So that's just kind of who he is. That's his personality. And again, if it was something that I felt like was detrimental to his ability to manage the offense and call it in a huddle and all that, I'd probably have a couple things to say to him. But he didn't miss a beat when it came to calling the play and being on top of it and then executing when it came time to execute. So it was new experience for me, but it was fun.
Again, it's practice. There's no pads on. We're months away from training camp. We don't have to be overreactionary, but it's also okay for Titans fans to be refreshed by hearing that, because what was the biggest issue with Titans quarterback play last season, among many issues? One mistake leading to another, to another, to another. Again, more concerning, and I know Buck disagrees with me on this, and it's fair, but more concerning to me than the crazy, just mind-blowing, what are you doing moments from Will Levis last year, the flip pass to Tajay, the shovel interception on the sideline against Chicago, pick six that loses you the game. More concerning than that to me was Levis hitting that sort of little plateau midseason where we had that 4-game stretch, about a month, where we said, okay, you can play with this, and then the bottoming out from there. That was more concerning to me than critical mistakes in weeks 1 and 2.
Because there are good ways to say, oh my, and there are bad ways to say, oh my. Will Levis was making you say it in a bad way.
Right.
Cam Ward's making you say it like,
oh my. Oh, I'm sorry, one more time. Jim Wyatt at the top of his observations from Titans minicamp on Tuesday. The Titans hit the field on Tuesday for the first day of the team's 3-day minicamp. Here's a look at some observations from today's session. Cam Ward. Oh my. Sounds about right.
See what I mean? You need a little more emphasis, a little more in there.
Buck will give us his impressions of the Titans rookie quarterback next on 104.5 The Zone.
Would you like to hit the buzzer beater with your retirement goals? Then you got to call Trajan Wealth today to learn more about their tailored wealth management solutions. The simple truth is that there is more to retirement planning than simply calculating your expenses. Trajan Wealth can help you design a strategy based on realistic options that align with your goals and your circumstances. So if you're interested in wealth management that's designed to protect, maintain, and expand your financial portfolio, Trajan Wealth offers retirement income planning services that start with an in-depth understanding of your short and long-term goals. So to get these strategies, visit them at either of their local locations, Brentwood and Franklin. Give them a call, 615-270-5000. That's 615-270-5000 or online at TrajanWealth.com. Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. This is a paid advertisement.
What's going on? 12 o'clock, just about on the dot from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Titans back on the field for mandatory minicamp. You got Brian Callahan and coordinators who spoke to the media earlier today. And special teams coordinator John Fassel spoke about undrafted free agent and wide receiver Xavier Restrepo and how his presence is not being made just on offense.
What I've learned is, if a guy's kind of pigeonholed as not the biggest guy or not the fastest guy, he usually has a lot of versatility. So without having maybe a predominant trait, but you got a lot of other good things, I think that's where some of the strengths lie in a lot of special teams guys, is their versatility. And I think his college tape proved that he can return the ball, but he can also block in the return game.
In free agent news, running back J.K. Dobbins has signed with the Denver Broncos on a one-year, $5.25 million deal. The Tennessee Titans will be facing another running back week one. The former Raven and Chargers had 1,058 yards from scrimmage last season with 9 touchdowns. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Welcome back. Final hour on this Tuesday, day 2 of mandatory minicamp for the Tennessee Titans. Buck Rising will check in from practice here momentarily, and there's a lot to talk about today. Cam Ward flashing yesterday at practice by all accounts. Brian Callahan talked about it this morning. Jeffrey Simmons in attendance. Buck told us yesterday he had to do up-downs for his voluntary OTA's absence, and then there was some chirping back and forth between Jeffrey Simmons and Cam Ward. Brian Callahan saying that now there's somebody on the other side of the ball that likes to talk. And we keep hearing more of these kind of tangential asides in terms of just the vibe that Cam Ward seems to be bringing to practice for the Titans. And again, low bar, but it was a much needed jolt for this team and this offense. And Nick Holtz spoke on that too. Cam Ward's confidence bringing an edge that they have not had for quite a while, at least as long as Brian Callahan and Nick Holtz and company have been there, by admission of the Titans offensive coordinator. And I was really curious about what that presence would look like early on, and it seems like that's been the case right off the bat for Cam Ward. As Buck chimes in now, we'll try to get him in trouble for mandatory minicamp.
Well, hold on now. He's in a particular place where the music is quite loud, so he said, give me a couple of minutes to walk somewhere.
Okay, while you do that, can we please tee up the oh my sound, the Cam Ward reaction sound for when we do get Buck on here to see if he had a similar reaction. I want to play it for him and see if he's going along with Jim Wyatt in this. So how long are we giving Buck to get to a quiet place?
He said 2 minutes, but I don't believe that. He's probably in there now. Check him out.
2 minutes, he can walk across the street.
Talk to him. Oh.
No, this is terrible.
What's wrong?
Okay, so Jim Wyatt, TennesseeTitans.com, Buck, opened his article observing Titans minicamp practice yesterday with this. Here's a look at some observations from today's session. Cam Ward.
Oh, my.
Did you share that same reaction?
No, that sounds entirely too sensual to be Jim Wyatt. Whose voice are you co-opting to be Jim Wyatt's, the voice of Jim Wyatt's mailbag?
That is George Takei.
That's who?
Well,
that's what Jim Wyatt wrote.
I'm sure some people whose job security relies on Cam Ward having a day like he did yesterday were probably making similar sounds and having similar feelings deep down inside them.
Because
he was great. He was excellent. He came out here just absolutely slinging, and then he threw. Well, while we were on the phone yesterday, I said Cody Barton did something good. Robert guessed an interception. I lied and said no, and that was the interception that they threw yesterday, as you two try to get me in trouble yet again. But he was awesome. I'm sure you guys carried the press conference yesterday to hear Callahan explaining how you have to adjust as a play caller to a quarterback who is very comfortable continuing to talk smack while he is getting the play call in his ear, and the fact that apparently he can do it with no issue, left brain, right brain type of stuff. And I mean, that's the kind of mentality that you want, because he's going to struggle, right? He's going to throw interceptions. He's going to be under duress in Denver and all these other things. but it's about how he maintains. What could we say about last year's Titans team when they got put in bad situations or when they made mistakes and put themselves in bad situations? They absolutely went nuclear, right? Yeah. And that caused a death spiral that was, a pretty common thread for them the entire season. This dude is completely unbothered, and it's interesting to see him go from, the clips of him and Shedeur that go viral, and then him and Jeff yesterday. Obviously, that wasn't on camera for people to be able to see unless the team ends up putting it out after the fact. But he's just able to keep the level, get right back in the huddle, do the operation. You guys played the Taj Spears interview, I'm sure, where he talked about Cam and how he manages the huddle and how impressive that is for a rookie coming in. All of those themes are holding true so far. It is going to be tough, and, ever the optimist, right? But it's going to be tough to temper people's expectations about this if he continues to look like this in a time where obviously there's no real defense, no pass rush, and no pads.
Yeah, a couple notes on the Tajay interview, if you were open to some criticism.
Perpetually.
So, one, when you sent it to me, it was upside down, so I had to fix that. So I appreciate you not cussing, but this time I hope that you record your interview right side up. Secondly, whenever someone walks up and you go, "Here's trouble," where does that rank among your tender hit, your hit ups, where you're like, you look like trouble? Would you give that at 1 to 10? How would you feel about that?
And who was trouble?
That was Jaquan Jackson. He was threatening to crash the interview because famously they are roommates. I don't know who the other player that was chirping at him earlier during the interview. But you got a million things walking around. So wait, what is the scale of 1 to 10? 10 being the highest and 1 being the lowest, or
10 being take me home right now, 1 being ooh, get away from me, creep.
I would say it's probably a hard 7, maybe after a couple of cocktails, maybe an 8.
And all of training camp, if we are out there, we're lucky enough. Anytime I see Jaquan Jackson, I'm going to go, "Here comes trouble."
It would probably be better than somebody wearing a T-shirt with his face on it coming up to him at a Titans practice. But these things happen.
We're talking about Jaquan? Who has a T-shirt with Jaquan Jackson's face?
He's talking about Taj Spears.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that wasn't Jaquan. That was Taj. Okay.
But back to the Cam Ward thing. I was reminded, 18 straight completions is what Jim Wyatt noted. I'm sure many of you guys did too. It reminded me of the famous, infamous, legendary Marcus Mariota interception-less streak. I'm sure that's been brought up a couple times. What was that, training camp 2018?
No, that was his rookie training camp. That was 15.
Oh, was it his rookie training camp? Okay. Well, so I was reminded of that, and I thought I'd rather have a rookie quarterback throw an interception almost immediately and then proceed to go on that streak as opposed to just not throw an interception at all.
Yeah, it's the first interception that he's thrown as a professional. So, the fact that it's one of these things that it's an easy thing for fans to latch onto. And again, it's not our job to be dismissive of fans when they get excited about those kind of things, but I don't know, people will turn around on the internet and drag Shedeur for throwing interceptions at practice. And, again, depending the context of the interception, not all interceptions are created equal, but you want him to make mistakes, right? You also want to see how he rebounds from those mistakes, and that was our first opportunity to really see him, puff his chest out after he made an error to Cody Barton, and then kind of show the defense what's up after that. So both of those things, you try to take them in stride, but this is the time that they're supposed to be trying, that they're trying things that they may not otherwise try. And again, hell, OTAs, half the time it feels like coaches are just trying different things schematically that they may never put into a playbook. But, hey, maybe if it works at OTAs, maybe we see how comfortable guys are with it. Maybe we rep it into training camp and see where it goes from there. But it's definitely an experimental time. And so mistakes are an essential part of the process for a rookie quarterback, because how else is he going to learn?
Jeffrey Simmons is back. He says he has trimmed some weight. I know he was chirping back and forth with Cam Ward. Brian Callahan talked about that earlier. His presence on the field, kind of business as usual?
Yeah, no, nobody's ever worried about Jeff. The fact that he looks the way that he does, he looks like a defensive end out here, right? He's I think just borderline 300, down 20 pounds. I know he's been doing a lot of core work, a lot of Pilates. Robert Walsh the same, right? They share similar physiques at this point in time.
It's hard to tell them apart at this point.
One also faces double teams on a regular basis, but those are usually self-inflicted. I think for Jeff, though, it's good to have that juice, right? It's kind of the thing that we talked about yesterday with the idea of instigating fighting versus where's the line, and Jeff's not, instigating anything at that point, but he kind of is, right? He's trying to see how the rookie responds, and the rookie responded exactly the way that you wanted to, and it's a good way for these guys to, even though they haven't spent time around each other because Jeff just got here, and, we've talked about that ad nauseum. I don't think that's a great look, but whatever. As long as he's ready to go, nobody's going to worry about it when it comes time to play games. It's a good way for Jeff to kind of test the waters that way, and it's a good way for Cam Moore to test right back.
The only thing getting double-teamed over here is the sleeve of Oreos getting double-teamed by a Wake Me and a Sleep Me.
I just the idea of what you would do to a double-stuffed Oreo is it's probably not safe for work. I don't think we should be able to discuss those things on FCC Safe Air.
Unspeakable things.
All three coordinators spoke after Brian Callahan. Any major takeaways from Holtz, Fassel, and Wilson?
They are not slowing anything down for Femi Oladejo. They're giving him the full playbook, and they're seeing how much he can retain and not, as Dinard Wilson says, they're not slowing down for anybody at this point in time because the group as a whole has a pretty good feeling and understanding of the scheme, of the language, of all the different things, of how the plays are called from this coordinator, which was, of course, a growth curve last year for Dinard Wilson, for Brian Callahan, and at the time, Colt Anderson. But I think it's interesting how they're bringing him along and how much they expect him to do. We've talked about this, right? How managed is he going to be? How much opportunity is he going to be able to create for himself beyond just the fact that, he's one of these guys that has to play for him this year? But it's as much about the mental part of it, the recognition, how he moves, and how comfortable he is with what they're asking him to do so that he can play more freely, more loosely, without getting bogged down by his own thought process. Obviously, you still have to be cerebral in a lot of these roles, but the less that you can think about what you have to do on any given play, the better that it allows you to operate. And so for Femi, I think that's a big thing. For Holtz, he talked about, and I got some pushback on this on Twitter, and maybe it's just because those Dan Moore highlights went around, and somebody who was he tied for the league lead in sacks last year? Is that the stat with Dan Moore? He had an abnormally large amount of sacks for somebody who got the contract that Dan Moore did, and you can go back and watch Justin Fields and see him holding the ball and stuff like that, and Russell Wilson causing sacks, so that may not necessarily be attributed to Dan Moore. But like Nick Holtz talking about opening up the playbook, and at least some of the feedback that I saw on social media was, well, let's just focus on being consistent first. Don't worry about opening up the playbook yet. Just get a couple of third downs. As if opening up the playbook doesn't mean exactly that. It means you can get less restrictive with your protections. That means you can send more guys out to run routes as opposed to keeping them in to chip and help both of your tackles and all these different things. And they feel like Dan Moore is going to give them the opportunity to do exactly that. Again, how good it's going to be, how much is he going to be an all-pro in 2025? Probably not. Is he going to be a Pro Bowler? Probably not. But can he just be average the way that we've talked about this, to not just completely kneecap them anytime they're in a third and manageable situation and the quarterback has to drop back? For Fassel, it was more philosophical stuff on the special team side than it was position battles. I think he pointed out today that they haven't done anything 11 on 11 yet, just because of the nature of not being in pads. The returning competition is interesting, and he didn't decline to narrow it down to a couple of guys, but there's so many of them, honest to God, out here. Something I was talking to Cosell about, it's a good numbers problem at wide receiver that they have, because there's so many different dudes, so many different types of styles of receiver and body types that they've brought onto this roster. It's kind of like it's a different version of the off-ball linebacker conversation, where they're going to give themselves as many different opportunities to find as many different guys to fill these roles as they can. But they've got a legitimate problem to figure out as to who is going to make this initial roster, and then how they manage things at wide receiver after that.
So while Jim Wyatt yesterday was saying, "Oh my," Buck was saying,
"Hey, Cameron."
That's right.
Sounds like that was the vibe.
That'll work.
Minicamp. Okay.
What y'all having for lunch today?
Oh man, that's actually disappointing.
He did that on purpose.
I was looking forward to telling him about how our YouTube numbers plummeted the second he came on. But we'll build them back up for Adam Sparks, who will tell us how the University of Tennessee plans to execute in this new revenue sharing era and how it affects Tennessee football. We'll do that next on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, Cameron.
Hey guys, it's Lucas. So vibes are terrible right now with the U.S. men's national soccer team, but the vibes are great at Fog Street Lawn Club. And I will be there on Sunday for the start of the CONCACAF Gold Cup as the U.S. desperately tries to get momentum back on their side exactly a year away from the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Hope you'll come and watch it. It is Nashville's premier soccer pub, your go-to spot for Nashville SC watch parties, home or away, or USA Soccer. And the vibes are immaculate once you walk up onto that rooftop and realize it is the best rooftop view of downtown Nashville with TVs, with lawn bowling up on the rooftop for free with any purchase from their excellent menu of British pub-style food. You can book, by the way, your lane for lawn bowling at fogstreet.com. That's FOGG street.com. They've got an awesome rooftop concert series coming up. Go check out their lineup at the website as well. And it's just a great place to watch any sport. Tons of space downstairs, TVs everywhere, NBA, Stanley Cup Finals, and of course, all the soccer action this summer. Happy hour is Monday through Thursday, 3 to 6 p.m. There's always something to do. I will see you guys on Sunday afternoon for the U.S. men's national team game at Fog Street Lawn Club. All right, this revenue-sharing era is officially upon us. The House settlement approved by Judge Claudia Wilken a few days ago. Schools can officially directly pay players. There is a clearinghouse for outside NIL deals to be vetted as fair market value. What that means, I don't know. There's questions all over the place, which is why we call people smarter than us. And that would be Adam Sparks of Knox News, has been all over this stuff. Not just from a national perspective, but obviously on how the University of Tennessee will be handling it as well. Adam, appreciate you as always joining us in a time where talking about college football in the offseason very rarely actually means talking about football.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the setup makes sense because I call people smarter than me. I feel like this is getting dumbed down each layer we go through on this.
This is not a good example of the transitive property, but we'll just plow right through it. So
yeah, let's give it a shot.
Everybody knows this figure by now, right? Around that $20 million mark. I've heard $22 million, $20.5 million, but either way, that's what schools have if they opt in to directly pay players. I guess just right off the bat, Adam, what do Tennessee fans specifically need to know about how the University of Tennessee is handling this particular matter?
Yeah, I mean, the money that in some ways this is simpler, in some ways it's more complicated. The money that Tennessee players are going to be paid is going to come from two sources now. It's going to come from the traditional NIL, if that's even a thing, where, it's a collective and fans are donating to it, boosters are donating to it, businesses are putting into it to get players to do commercials for them. That's traditional NIL. That's how players have been paid the last 3 or 4 years. That's going to continue, but that will now seem more like a bonus on top of sort of their regular pay. Players' regular pay, so to speak, will come from revenue sharing, which is just directly from the school. So if not every player is going to get paid revenue, just like not every player is going to be paid NIL. I mean, most athletes in like non-revenue sports don't get any of that. But if we're talking like football, basketball players especially, the better players or the more valuable players will get a check of revenue directly from the school. It comes right out of the athletic department budget. And they will get that, and then they can get on top of that NIL money in the way that they were getting it before. The idea is that, there is a cap on the revenue, but you're going to go beyond that if you're any school that can afford that, and Tennessee is one of those. So, yeah, the $21 million cap for all athletes, that's not really, even though it's a cap, it's not really the ceiling. It's more of the floor for SEC schools. You will pay up to that cap from the school, and then you will top it off on top of that with NIL money. So, like Tennessee football, they're going to spend about 75% of the revenue on football players. Tennessee is, and so you're talking about $14-15 million, but the actual number that they're going to get paid is in the 20 millions because you're going to have more NIL money on top of that.
Adam Sparks with us at Adam Sparks on Twitter has gone into detail on this on Knox News with the article, House Settlement Approves Revenue Sharing. Here's how Tennessee will pay players. So the next part of that, Adam, is this clearinghouse, right, to determine what is fair market value and just how NIL will be regulated, because suddenly that's now how schools can, I guess it was always how schools can gain an advantage. But my point is the advantage is still there, right? That's how they can separate with everybody having the same pool of money to pay players with. How does that even work, and why should fans care about a certain group called Deloitte?
Yeah, so Deloitte they're going to be running the clearinghouse. I'm skeptical if it's going to work because I feel like it could be vulnerable for lawsuits. I mean, the way that you're supposed to do is any NIL deal over $600, which are most NIL deals, you have to turn it into the clearinghouse. It's not going to be run by the NCAA. It's going to be run by the College Sports Commission, which is a new entity in college sports. If you get an NIL deal, you have to turn in that contract and all that stuff to the NIL clearinghouse. They'll look at it and determine if it's quote unquote legitimate or not. Now, if that were to work, I think most fans would like that, because what they're trying to determine is if the player is actually doing work or doing a promotion, a commercial, if they're on a billboard, that sort of thing. If they're doing like that actual work and appearances and getting paid fair market value for it. That's the way that NIL was always supposed to be, that a football player goes and does a commercial for the local car dealership and they get paid, $20,000 or something. You're on a billboard for a siding company and you get $10,000 for it. And that's the way it was supposed to be. That's what the NIL clearinghouse is supposed to weed through and approve. Rather than, the way the NIL has ended up being is that, you go and recruit or sign a quarterback and you give them $2 million and maybe they have to do 2 Instagram posts or something, but they really don't have to do much of anything. This is supposed to keep that from happening. It's just, it's hard to vet that because, in any transaction, there is a buyer and a seller. And if the seller if they both agree on a price and what they're doing or not doing, it's sort of hard for a third party to jump in and say, well, that's not fair. And I think that's where the lawsuits are going to come in.
Yeah, that's the thing, Adam. I don't even know how you begin to draw that line. Are there contracts now that players will be held to from revenue sharing? So we at least know there will be penalties for something, like Arkansas now is pursuing, what's the figure? I don't even know, $100,000, $200,000 that they paid to Madden Iamaleava, Nico's younger brother, who went to join him at UCLA. So players can be held more firmly to those deals now with revenue sharing. Well,
so you have to separate these. The third-party NIL, the NIL that the Iamaleavas had and all this NIL stuff that's been the last few years, those contracts have always been around, and you kind of have to decide whether or not you want to sue for breach of contract or whatever. Most collectives or schools try not to do that. You can sort of be stained if you go after money in that way. The revenue sharing, now the revenue that's direct school to player, that's the new thing. There will be contracts in that. Before the House settlement even happened, there were preliminary contracts that were signed. UT didn't do that. They waited till the settlement went through because, you want it to be official. They'll sign contracts for revenue. Let's say a quarterback signs for a revenue share and he gets $500,000 from the school. That's his revenue share for the year. And then he gets another, let's say, $1 million in NIL. Now, those are two separate things. He's making $1.5 million, but the $500,000, the $500,000 is coming directly from the school in revenue. He'll sign a contract for that. If he were to go in the transfer portal in December, if the revenue was for the full year, then you can charge him a buyout to buy out the contract because he didn't stay the full year. It really depends on the terms of the revenue. But yeah, that's going to be a real thing. Now, some players will have multi-year deals in the revenue, 2-year, 3-year deals. It's just that's going to be very rare. And from the people that I talk around about to the SEC, I've asked the question, why not sign everybody to multi-year deals? That way you can keep them. They're not going to go in the transfer portal. The thing is, if you're not a star player, if you're not like a top 3 or 4 player on a team, the schools actually want the ability to opt out of you. They don't want to tie up a, average player or a player that haven't proven themselves. They don't want to tie themselves to a player like that for 3 years. And so there's always this idea that you want to keep the player, but sometimes the coach or the school is not really sure of a player and they want to be able to cut them loose too. So it kind of goes both ways.
Adam Sparks is our guest of Knox News on 104.5 The Zone. And you've written about this as well on Knox News. How does Zakai Ziegler and his situation fit into all this as he pursues a 5th year?
Yeah, he's trying to get that extra year. The idea is that once the House settlement went through, the rule would be changed or certainly challenged to where the 5-year clock, it's always been that that athletes have 4 seasons. They have 5 years, and they get 4 seasons in those 5 years. Of course, the additional year is a red shirt. But if you use your 4 seasons in 4 years, you're done. Well, Zakai Ziegler didn't take a red shirt. He used all seasons in 4 years. He wants that 5th year, and probably if he were around next year, it would probably be a done deal because I think the rule's going to change. He's basically suing to say if the rule is going to change anyway, let's say in the next month, I should get the same benefit even though I played this past season. And so he's suing for that. There's I think we could get a ruling on that this week. Could even happen today. But the latest tactic of his attorneys is to use a new state law that UT used. That was pretty big in the news a couple weeks ago, using a new state law that basically says if you don't want to follow NCAA rules in the state of Tennessee, you don't have to. That the NCAA doesn't have authority over Tennessee athletes and schools. Now, most of that was meant for liability issues if there were lawsuits in this House settlement. But Ziegler's attorneys have said, well, no, it applies to every athlete in the state of Tennessee. And so the NCAA does not have the authority to enforce its eligibility rules in the state of Tennessee. They're trying that. I don't know if it's going to be successful or not. The House settlement probably weakens Ziegler's claim on that because in the House settlement, there's a clause in the House settlement that gives the NCAA and the College Sports Commission the right to uphold its 4 seasons or 5-year eligibility rules. And the SEC approved that. SEC went in on that. They approved that settlement, and therefore UT approved that settlement. So the school that Ziegler's trying to play for has already agreed to the eligibility terms. It's sort of a twisted web, that's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Twisted web. It's just everything right now, Adam. So, I mean, let's simplify things and maybe talk a little bit about actual football. In terms of just approval rating right now with Josh Heupel, who was added to his staff, by the way, NFL coach Marion Hobby coming on and kind of a quality control role in Tennessee going into 2025, trying to figure out what their quarterback situation is going to be. I've described it as almost this gap year. It feels almost similar to what the Vols had with Joe Milton the year after Hendon Hooker, that 2023 season. Is that a fair description to you?
Boy, if you say gap year or rebuilding year or anything like that around the Tennessee facility, you may get run out of the building because they don't see it that way. Now, coaches are always that way, of course. But I think the idea in the transfer portal, NIL, now rev share era is that there shouldn't be a gap year or rebuilding year just because you should be able to reload. And, of course, if Nico was still here, we probably wouldn't see it that way as much. But because of that whole weird situation, it's definitely a year where, if you talk to people around the conference and you say UT, what you just laid out is sort of how everybody around the conference sees it. They'll be competitive, they'll be fine, they'll win some games, probably be like an 8-4 type team. They'll win the games they're supposed to, they'll lose the other games, and they'll be sort of a middle of the pack SEC team. That's sort of the thinking around the conference. Now, if you look closer at their schedule, they could be not good enough to win 9 or 10 games, but still win 9 or 10 because their schedule has quite a bit of weak points to it. So we'll see. I mean, but obviously a lot of this depends on whether or not they can make the quarterback position work. But there's so many things beyond that as well.
What else to you looms largest for Tennessee football this offseason? Like understanding that Joey Aguilar is on campus and he's getting his feet under him, and that'll be a battle in training camp. Is there anything that we're not talking about with this team this offseason?
Yeah, I think we've almost forgotten about injuries. Miles Kitzelman, we think, could be back at the beginning of the season. They've got to have him at tight end. They've got to have him for whoever the quarterback is as sort of a reliable safety valve. You definitely need him at full strength by the time the Georgia game comes around in week 3. Jermod McCoy is even bigger than that. That's a guy that tore his ACL, All-American cornerback, tore his ACL in January. Like, could he be back at close enough to 80, 90% in the Georgia game to make a difference, or is this going to be a longer-term injury? I mean, ACL, that's tough to come back from, but they're pretty optimistic. And then a whole lot of other injuries that really didn't get that many headlines back in the spring. I mean, Arion Carter was out. Multiple linebackers were out. The defensive line was really thin. A lot of those were injuries they knew would happen. There were cleanup surgeries in the offseason. But, in the spring, that team was not ready to compete. They have to get a lot of guys back and make up for lost time in fall camp to be where they need to be. And that's especially, I would say, on defense. There were just so many injuries, so many cleanup surgeries in the offseason on defense that they have to get those guys back and at 100% because offense is a huge question mark. Tennessee's defense cannot be a question mark. It has to be somewhere between solid and strong, which it was strong last year, which is why they got to the playoff. It's got to be close to that again with as many questions they have on offense.
Adam Sparks with us. Marion Hobby joins the Tennessee staff as a defensive analyst. I mean, longtime NFL defensive line coach, former defensive coordinator for Clemson in some of their peak years. What did you make of this move by Josh Heupel and what is, I guess, one of the deepest sort of quality control networks in the SEC? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, this has sort of changed in the last couple of years because the analyst job changed, I want to say a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, to where, the way you had to do it before is analysts were kind of what they sound like. They were a little behind-the-scenes guys, but the rule on analysts changed a season or two ago to where those guys can now be on the field, working with players one-on-one or with a group or whatever. They're just additional assistant coaches is all they are. They're just lesser paid assistant coaches. So, instead of just having like Rodney Garner, the defensive line coach out there, you can now have Rodney Garner plus like 3 other guys. And you can even see it sometimes in drills where instead of, Rodney Garner with 15 guys, you've got 4 coaches with, 3 or 4 apiece. And Marion Hobby obviously is a great addition to that.
Adam Sparks of Knox News. Everything you need for the current state of college athletics, a tangled web indeed. At Adam Sparks on Twitter. Of course, everything happening with Tennessee football as well. Adam, thanks so much for the time, man. Always appreciate it.
Yep, good to be on. We'll see y'all.
All right. Adam Sparks with us on 104.5 The Zone. And if you missed any of that, you can catch it, of course, on the podcast, The Buck Rising Show, today with No Buck Rising, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best in the world. You can also watch it on demand on the 104.5 The Zone YouTube page. Be sure to like and subscribe while you are there. 615-737-1045. Last call for phone calls as we'll preview NBA Finals action tonight and wrap up the show with some polls next on 104.5 The Zone.
Introducing our new partner, Premier Generators, now in Nashville, the largest certified Generac dealer in Tennessee. When power outages strike, protect your family with a top-tier generator, expertly installed by local specialists. Premier Generators dedicates itself solely to generators offering unmatched expertise. Plus, you can enjoy the peace of mind with an extended 10-year warranty. Don't wait for the next storm. Schedule your consultation today, because that's something that they run into quite often. Talking to the fine folks at Premier Generators yesterday, people think that they can just call the day before a storm or things like that and say, can you install a generator at my home? There's so many different things that you have to make sure that you have in line before you can actually get this process underway. So it's important for you to be proactive and not reactive when it comes to making sure that you don't lose power at the most critical moments. I myself can speak to this on personal experience. When that tornado hit us in 2020 over in the Germantown, North Nashville area where I'm at, we were without power for 6 days. And what I wish I would have been smart enough what I wish I would have been smart enough at the time to realize that it was so important to have a generator at my home. And since then, we've been able to get that done ahead of schedule. PremierGenerators.com is where you go, or you can call them at 615-439-2992. Be prepared and choose Premier Generators for reliable power solutions.
Wrapping things up. Let's call for phone calls, 615-737-1045. We'll see if tomorrow, as the Titans wrap up mandatory minicamp, if the reviews are as glowing about Cam Ward as they were today from yesterday's practice. So we'll run back the same drill tomorrow. Brian Callahan will lead us off with his press conference right off the top. Buck will chime in at noon. And a select Titans player will sit down with Buck after practice. It is a pass rusher. That'll be our hint. That'll be our tease for tomorrow.
Put your guesses in the F&M Bank chat.
Yeah, there's not that many to choose from.
I'm going to ruin it. It's Lorenzo Carter.
No, it's not. 615-737-1045. We're fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in the world. Download the Hattie B's app. You get a free dessert just for downloading the app. Order for pickup, delivery. They can also take care of events for you. Catering. Let Hattie B's fuel your wedding, right? Doesn't have to be shut the clock up all the way around. Just some incredible fried chicken with maybe with a little bit of kick. if that gets you going, and the best sides on the planet, HattieB.com. NBA Finals tonight. We've got Game 3, series tied at 1, Thunder and Pacers. Who you got? Back in Indianapolis.
I think the Pacers clean this one and just go 2-0, go up 3-1. It's tough to play over there, and I think the Thunder are just going to get their ass smacked.
Oh, man. So you think going back to OKC at 3-1?
No, hell no. Who would say that? No, the Thunder, yeah, come on, dude. Come on.
You're very convincing.
I always get you with those. You what's the word? Gullible. I think you might.
You're picking a game. It's a competitive series.
You were like, oh yeah, so, it seems very good.
So you think the Thunder are just the pure better team and run away with this thing?
No, who would say that, dude? Of course, I think the Pacers are going to win.
Oh, I hate you sometimes.
I'll just keep going back and forth, so I'm never wrong.
I can't wait to see how the Pacers respond. I can't wait to see Tyrese Halliburton, how he responds. It's very easy to be like, all right, Halliburton's got to step up. Better score more points tonight, Halliburton. You know? I mean, it's like, all right, show us. Are you a superstar?
Hey, the only way you're going to win is if you score more points than
them. That's right. We're going to see if he can score more points than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Like, they're not the same player, right? Like, Tyrese Halliburton has attempted half as many shots as SGA has in the finals. He's a pass-first point guard. They have to open things up for him. So I'm looking forward to seeing if the Pacers can kind of space things out in a way that gets Tyrese Halliburton more shots. But, I mean, you know, jokes aside, like, this is the test for him. Okay, you are not the most overrated player in the NBA. Like, that is confirmed now, as was voted on by anonymous peers earlier this year. You absolutely should have been an all-star this season in the NBA. Are you a superstar? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is. He's the MVP. But is Tyrese Halliburton? So we'll see if those 2 games in Indianapolis tell us. That place is going to be rocking. It's going to be insane. So I hope, for the sake of a fun series, that this thing goes back to OKC at least tied at 2. At least. Or Pacers up 3-1. Because then you can see the Thunder rallying at home and we go 1-1 from there.
Then we get a 7-game series.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I want.
That'll be fun.
I want a 7-game series out of this. The conference finals got off to such a fun start. I mean, that Knicks-Pacers game, and game 1, and then it just kind of sputtered. Both Stanley Cup and NBA. So I hope we get a good one tonight. There was also some news, speaking of rings, as the Spurs and Thunder are looking for their first NBA championship ring. There was another ring in NFL news that just kind of came out of nowhere, Robert, about a person that we act like we're very tired of talking about. We continue to find ways to bring up.
Yeah, yesterday, Aaron Rodgers made his presence known at practice for the Steelers, and there was a little ring on his finger. And everybody's like, Are you married? He's like, yes.
Yeah, I got married.
I had a secret wedding that no one was told about, which is funny because we talk a lot about him being like one of the most vain athletes of all time, but then also not wanting the adulation of people to be like, congratulations, hey, how you doing? So I did a little digging. Someone else actually put all this together. All I did was find the article, click it, and read it. The new Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback confirmed the news on Tuesday, weeks after he was spotted wearing a ring on his finger during the first day of training with his new teams. Reporters pointed out the ring, and Rodgers confessed that he got married, quote, a couple months ago. He also confirmed that he was, in fact, wearing a wedding ring. So we did a little more digging, which meant I had to click on another article. And even though he didn't share any new details about his wife, Rodgers previously revealed in December that he was in a relationship. He publicly mentioned for the first time that he was dating a woman named Brittany on the Pat McAfee show, saying, quote, there was one package left for my girlfriend Brittany that she didn't open up yet, which Pat said, Spears? Are you dating Britney Spears? Which is something I feel like we would do. He said, no, this is not Brittany. This is Brittany with an I. Oh. She does not have social media, and she does not watch the Pat McAfee show. So, Brittany with an I.
Like an eye at the end?
Better than an eye at the beginning. When is she a new Apple product? Yes, he's married to the eye Brittany. It's our newest form of robot you can live with. It'll cut the lights off for you for your darkness retreat.
But there's no real comfort. Like, that's just what he said a few months ago. We don't know who this woman actually is. There's no confirmation.
I mean, technically, no. I mean, if she has social media, she doesn't technically exist in the world either. You know, birth certificate, hell with that. Where's her Instagram?
Okay. Interesting. Maybe she becomes his PR director.
We think she's a redhead, blonde, brunette. If history is any indicator, I do think she's a brunette. Danica Patrick, Olivia Munn, I'm tired of him dating all of the women that I find extremely attractive. I hope Brittany's a dog. I hope that she is just like a yogi with armpit hair that's braided down to her ankles. Every time she comes to a Rodgers game, she's like clapping up here, "Let's go Rodgers!" And her armpit hair is blowing in the wind. That's what I want for him. That's what she would fit in well with all the Pittsburgh women.
Okay, all right. You get your AFC North bias out of here. Aaron Rodgers just dropping in on the first day of minicamp, talking to the media. Oh, and I'm married. So congrats to Aaron Rodgers and to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Let's do some polls.
The polls brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, the most trusted Ford dealership in all of the South. What's the dumbest thing in sports this week? The Brian with his weekly submission. Will Lev Ass still being on the roster?
Guys, you need him to play well so you can trade him.
Yeah, come on.
What is this thing about him still being on the roster? It's a big offseason for Will Levis and for the Titans if they want to trade Will Levis and for Will Levis to get a fresh start. It's ridiculous.
Detweiler with the product the U.S. men's national team ran out there last night.
Yeah, brutal.
Karen Reeves saying you were the highlight of the game last night. So there you go.
Thank you.
Pat on the back
Karen.
from Karen. Over under, Taj Spears with 600 yards of total offense in 2025. 51% say over, 48% say under. So the audience is pretty split on this.
That math is not mathing.
51.8, 48.2. I'm not including the decimals. Just round up.
I do hate the decimals.
Like, come on, we don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need to know what those people think.
If he's healthy, over 600 yards feels fair, but the health will be a question.
The Brian chiming in again. He can't stay healthy, so I'll say under. If he can play the whole season, I'll go over. I think that's a fair assessment. Who would you guess Aaron Rodgers is married to? We had 5 responses here. 3 of them said himself, his mirror, his reflection. The other 2, Travis saying, this is great content. John Feely with Amanda Bynes. Amanda Bynes, where are you at? She got those cheek piercings I hate. And among other things. But, you know, the piercing in the dimple? It just looks weird to me. It's like seeing a hair in your biscuit. Like,
I don't know anything about what Amanda Bynes is up to these days.
You should give her a Google.
I liked Eric's reply of Devontae Adams.
I could see that. The perk of being married to Devontae Adams? He has a Taco Bell in his house. Mm-hmm. Are you considering 2025 a gap year for vol football? 41.3% of the audience saying yes. 58.7% of the audience saying no. Did that math?
That math. Look, if they're not competing for a championship or a college football playoff spot, which is hard for me to sit here and confidently say that Tennessee is going to compete for a college football playoff spot, then how do we not treat this like a gap year?
A year abroad. Would that make Vols fans sound better?
Yeah, that sounds a little bit better.
Vols football is having a year abroad.
Yeah.
They're expanding their horizons.
They're going to Rome for a season. Win 8-9 games.
Turkish baths, you know.
Reset for Faison Brandon in 2026. Are those the polls?
Those are the polls.
And that's the show. We will be back at it tomorrow. Brian Callahan will speak. Buck will join us at noon. We'll wrap up Titans mandatory minicamp. Cover 2 with Blaine and Zach. Got you coming up next until 3 o'clock on 104.5 The Zone.